Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the We the People studio. Welcome to Higley and Joy. We have a Facebook special for you. Welcome, everyone. I'm Shannon and Joy, joined by Christina Higley. We're broadcasting first time ever from We the People Network, Titus Ave Studios, home of Revere Realty and Chad Hummel. Thank you to Austin, who is producing the show today.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank
Austin.
you.
And Christina, welcome. How are you? Happy Friday.
I know. Happy Friday. So good to be with you. This is so nice to kind of kick off our time here at We the People with each other.
Yep. Friday. I have my Stella. You have your water. You always have your water. But this is going to be an exciting couple hours. Bear with us, guys, because we've never broadcasted from this studio before. So
or this many guests.
No, this is going to be rough. I don't know why. We have our harebrained ideas. And hey, Christina, let's have a 2-hour special to introduce the entire community to all of our school board candidates. And we just think, and now we have Tom crawling down on the floor. Under like this, we're pros. We're really pros. But so this is going to be a really fun couple of hours. I hope for all of you. It's going to be really great for us to be able to talk to all of the candidates. It has been a wild ride in education for the past 14 months. Lay aside COVID-19 and lay aside the lockdowns and the red zones and the green zones and all of the disruptions. The single greatest disruption came in the lives of our children. And that was at the hands of our public education institutions. And for those of you who have been following Rock for Educational Freedom, the group that Christina started, now well over 5,000 strong parents, advocates who are frustrated with what is happening in our schools. It started, Christina, with protests and rallies on sidewalks and then grew to a movement. And now many of the people who were organizing and advocating 6-7 months ago are now running for office, right? As school board candidates.
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like a proud mom. I keep telling all these folks that are running for school board, I'm like, this just started out really, I just wanted to get the schools open. I saw what was happening to my own children and to children in my community. And really through that, we started to see just how corrupt and just how much work our public schools needed and how we as parents needed to become more involved. And it is really transformed into a movement. And it is so great seeing so many parents activated and wanting to fight for their children and to take back the schools. I couldn't be happier where we're at a year later.
Well, and it's been crazy this year in our schools from, all of these scandals, all of the shenanigans, from what happened in our Hilton School District with the principal to our Webster School District with the stepping down of the superintendent, Carm Gamina. We have school board meetings on fire, starting with Penfield, where parents are so frustrated that they're taking to the microphone and demanding to be heard. Then that carries over into Webster, where you have parents, again, telling their school board that they want to be heard, they want the schools open, they want to advocate for their kids, and nothing is happening. Then you fast forward to Pittsford, where you have another school board meeting. Parents are sick of being talked down to, being forced masked, their children being forced masked. And so there's really a lot of angst out there. And I think parents are saying to themselves, well, who's in control of our schools?
Right. And I think
bosses.
Right. And I think it's important to mention, not just locally, but across the country, we're seeing this.
Yes.
And I think that people in general, parents, they've just had enough. They want accountability. They want transparency. They want their voices to be heard. And most importantly, they want their children not only in schools, but they want these masks off.
Yes,
they want the vaccine nowhere near their children. They don't want this critical race theory. They don't want the vile sex ed in their children's classrooms. And I think tonight that's what we're going to hear from a lot of the folks that we'll be interviewing is they're kind of on the same page with us and they want what is best for our children. And it's about time. It's about time that we had candidates running that wanted to do what was best and put the kids first.
Exactly.
And I've been saying that since day one, kids first.
Yes. And a lot of dirty tricks, a lot of union activity. Some of these school board, elections, we're having union activity. We're going to hear about that later tonight from the Fairport School District. We have Black Lives Matter, Black in the Burbs, the CRT, the critical race theory proponents, making all kinds of trouble.
Are they here protesting tonight?
I know, right? They were, they were around yesterday. And so it's just been a really crazy year. The way that we're going to set this up, every person that you guys are going to meet tonight We have a couple candidates from Penfield School District. We have Webster School District, Pittsford, Spencerport, Churchville-Chili, and Fairport. And anyone that you're going to meet tonight, guys, they share our values. These are candidates that we have vetted, that we've already talked to in the issue of fully reopening schools. They're very good on that. On getting the kids out from behind the masks, they're very good on that. They're opposed to critical race theory. They are also opposed to the radical sex education. So on those issues, we are very comfortable with them, Christina, right, as candidates. I think today what I'd like to do with them is to get a little deeper and talk to them about. You just put the microphone right in front of my face.
Yes, he did.
He put the microphone.
Thanks, Tom. We're a little too far.
Should I put it down or up?
You can put it down, but it's down. Keep it close to your face.
Oh, put it close to my face. There. Yeah. You put it right in front of my.
I know, he did that to me earlier. The audience is gonna be like.
So not that I would mind, but so we're going to ask them all a little bit deeper questions about why they ran. What are the larger themes that they're seeing? What is it from their perspective? What is it that is going wrong with schools? Right. And in our schools.
Right. And I think it's so important for our audience tonight because we do have followers all across the state and across the country and even up in Canada that follow our groups and such, that just because these candidates are running here locally in the suburbs of Rochester, New York, these are common themes in school districts across the United States. So as you're going to the polls and you're looking for the candidates that you want to represent your children and your family, the folks that we'll be chatting with tonight, these are examples of who you want to be looking for in your community.
So we have, let's see, what time is it now? We are at, I'm looking at the stop clock here.
We are at 6:10 almost.
Okay, 6:10. So we can bring our first candidates in, I think, unless you want to add anything. Is there anything?
I think we're good.
Do we have any questions? I'm looking at, why don't we take some comments, actually? We have Elizabeth Giglio Ambrose. She said, I pulled my kids from Hilton Public. I'm not voting unless I get a response on the issues that I am concerned about. Yep. Angela Bonacci is with us. She said she's replying. Some of the big, well, I can't really read that. How do I scroll? Can I scroll down on these or no?
Yeah, let's scroll up a little bit there if you could.
And see if we have some more of the comments.
I could throw it on my phone here too.
So why don't we stop with the comments now? We'll bring our first candidates.
We'll figure that. Oh, no grease candidates. Yeah. So there were a couple of districts that we did have a hard time identifying folks that we were willing to endorse. Greece being one of them. Same with Rush Henrietta and such. But again, we're telling folks like in your school district, you need to be asking questions. You need to be emailing these folks, calling them, tweeting them, whatever the case may be, and figure out, what is the platform that they're running on? Do they want your schools open full time or not? Where do they stand with the important issues? So again, this is just a flavor of candidates from around our viewing area here in Rochester. And again, it's the idea of like, try to find candidates in your community that are running on similar platforms. So
let's see what else we have here. So we have one comment, critical race theory invites racial division. Bigotry against whites does not solve the problem of discrimination. That was a really hot topic that I was kind of surprised about. I've done critical race theory on my program for many years. And we did a deep dive probably, I want to say 12 months ago into the underpinnings of critical race theory, which is really, it's Marxist in nature. It's essentially collectivism. It's Marxism kind of wrapped up in a package of equity and white privilege. And, this is a topic that I've always been interested in, but to see so many members of my community who've never really thought about this stuff before really come out. I go to a lot of school board meetings. I watch a lot of school board meetings and to see all of the comments and people that I've never talked to before standing up and speaking so eloquently about the divisive nature that really, I think, has been a hot button issue in these elections.
And it's been folks from all walks of life too. And it's just, it's really a hot topic and definitely deserves a closer look for sure.
So why don't we bring in our first, here we have Nikki DeLeo is watching from Gananda. And Nikki says, vote Nate Jenny.
He's on fire.
Nate Jenny's on fire.
Yes.
Nate Jenny is my brother-in-law. I don't know if
there we
anyone knows
go.
that, but Nate Jenny is my brother-in-law. And he called me today. He's been working really hard. He called me. He said, do you think I should come? I'm like, well, it's kind of Monroe County. Gananda is Wayne County. And not that there's anything wrong with Wayne County. I was a Gananda grad. Gananda's my alma mater. So love that school. And I said we would love to have him. But if he doesn't, he was really busy and he's been working really hard in the campaign.
Yeah.
He's like,
people in the community are noticing. I'm friends with numerous folks who have children out in the Gananda schools, and they are noticing Nate and they are loving him.
Well, I insisted on his signs. I said, open schools fully. That's your sign, Nate. And I beat him over the head. So he listened to me.
What are you imitating my signs? No.
No, I really was. No, I'm like, that's what you want people to see. You want them to know that you are all for opening the schools fully. But it's interesting how the shenanigans are the same from district to district, Wayne County, Monroe County. It's like they all get the same talking points. And for whatever reason, because of that union pressure, the schools in this area are just hell-bent on staying closed.
They are.
They're hell-bent on staying closed. And that's been a real frustration to parents. And that's why these are hot elections.
Right.
So why don't we bring in, we have Andres Salins and Nicole Feltz. So they're from the Penfield School District. And if we want to bring them in, and they can have a seat in the hot seat.
All right, let's get them settled.
So everyone bear with us. Again, we're not used to being in this studio. We're used to doing our Facebook lives together from the comfort of our homes. And so this is pretty exciting. Let me see who else we have on here. Vicky Vettery is joining us. Hey, Vicky, how are you, girl? We have Nikki DeLeo. We have, let's see who else we have on the feed. Boya Boya, love the slogan, children first. I agree, Boya Boya. It's an interesting name. I like it. We have Stephanie Arnold is with us tonight. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? If you guys want to share this out with your friends and family, that helps us push this out and increase the number of viewers. So just hit share, maybe give us a like or a heart as we set up our first school board candidates. It is warm in here. Is it warm in here?
Warm in here.
It is warm.
Oh, it's really warm.
It is warm.
I'm gonna need like a little like.
There's not enough deodorant in the world right now.
My hair is slowly getting frizzier and frizzier and frizzier as the neck is. All right, so we are really thrilled to have. All right, you guys are up. Oh, you guys look great. We have Andres Salins and Nicole Feltz, who are in the boxes below. Christina and I. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So we've introed everyone. Everyone in the studio tonight. These are they're people that we have talked to, and then we know what your thoughts are on reopening the school. You're running for school board because of a lot of those frustrations about reopening schools. The masking, the critical race theory, and the radical sex ed agenda. We're pretty comfortable with all the candidates on that, but we wanted to hear from you guys on some of the larger issues. Why you ran first and foremost, and what are some of the bigger problems that you're seeing? And I'll start with you, Nicole, in schools in general. And what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I have never done anything like this before. I ran because I watched my kids suffering. They were in the hybrid. Well, first off, they weren't in school from March to the end of the year last year, but we'll give that a pass. But they were in the hybrid model for most of this year. And I watched my two really happy kids take a turn. My daughter's 9 and she started to have some anxiety issues, and my son he's in kindergarten. He just wasn't learning. There were tears. He was frustrated. And so I've been going to board meetings all year, and parents have shared, what's going on with their kids. Penfield parents shared that their kids are having these awful mental health crises, and the board just kind of looked at us without any emotion or any,
Yeah,
that's a common
feeling.
That's a common thread,
right? Yeah. So I'm the kind of person that I can't say, oh, this isn't right, but I'm not going to do anything. So I was like, I'm going to run for
Yeah.
school board. I want to make a change and help these kids.
Right. And I think it's important to note too, Penfield was really one of the first suburbs in Rochester after I started Rock for Educational Freedom that started Penfield parents advocating for full-time school.
Yes.
And that group, and then we have Laura Whistledown, who
She was
became
the original,
the
original Whistledown
Yeah.
came out of
Yeah.
Penfield.
And really, you guys were like the OGs in this movement as far as setting up local parents in your school district, not just depending on Rock for Educational Freedom,
Well, and
to
that
bring
was the first,
you guys together. It was great.
Well, and it was the first gavel moment, and everybody
Yes.
remembers
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that was shared all over the community, where you had moms pouring their hearts out to board members, similar to what you were talking about, and they're gaveled down.
Right.
Yeah.
Beating the gavel, basically school board members saying, we don't care what you think, what you say.
Your time's up. We're done.
doubling
We're done
down.
heering about you.
And they don't want to hear the science. They don't want to
Right.
hear the facts about the transmission of COVID among kids. They don't want to hear, another side of the story when it comes to masking and distancing. It's just their way or the highway. And it seemed as if they all got the same talking points. So
Yeah.
what would you like to do, Nicole, in terms of, if you get elected, what are the things that you think are going to be the most important for you to do as a board member?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, most importantly, is to listen to the community. That is a huge gap. The community elects board members, and you need to listen to what people have to say. You need to listen to those stories, and you need to get creative and say, how can we help these kids? You're on the school board to help kids. I mean, that's number one focus. So, really listen to the community and see what we can do to help our kids. It's not rocket science, I don't think. You just need to, go back to the basics and say, what do these kids need? And listen to what parents have to say.
Sure. Andres, have you thought about how you'll get parents more involved in board meetings? Because I think we're all kind of at fault here. Even myself, I never went to board meetings.
I know.
Ever. We had actually one of the board members at my school district here in Webster who told me that there hadn't been a single parent who had signed up to speak since she had been elected last spring. So parent involvement is really not there. How will you encourage parents to become more involved, being one yourself who became more involved?
I think that's one of the things that we've actually talked about is the transparency piece. I think it's a two-way street. So, you look at the parents that are out there, they're speaking up, and then they feel like they're not being acknowledged. And I think that's where a lot of this has come from, where we look at the community, speaks out, and all you hear is just, you get stares back. And then there's no acknowledgement. You wait till next meeting, still no acknowledgement. And I think that piece of actually acknowledging the parents, acknowledging the messages, even if it's not answered that night, I think it's, we heard your messages, we thought about this, this is what we're coming back with. And that two-way communication, I think, is really important with the board to at least acknowledge the community's, outreach, cries for help, whatever it happens to be. And I think there's that piece where, whether, we've been talking about, are there ways we can do forums? Are we, ways that we can respond back to people? What kind of avenues can we respond back and talk to people from there? And I think that's kind of that piece that I think our campaign's really been looking at.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of talk about the teachers union sponsoring candidates, right? So there's these fancy flyers that have come out, which we'll talk more about later on in the show, that, are backing specific members that are, obviously aligned with the teachers union and such. Both of you are not endorsed by the teachers union, which I think is a good thing.
It's a badge of honor.
I think it's a badge of honor, yes. But how will you guys work to kind of bridge that divide or bridge that gap? Because obviously the teachers have very strong feelings in who they'd like to see run for the Board of Education. Us parents have very strong feelings about who we'd like to see, but ultimately you're going to need to serve the best interests of both parties. How do you plan on kind of bringing everybody together? Because right now there seems to be kind of a stigma on teachers right now, and parents haven't been so happy with the union over the last year. Have you thought about that?
A little bit. Actually, we reached out early on to the union just to talk to them and say, what's the pulse of the teachers? What's going on and that we're not seeing that you can share with us, just to kind of learn a little bit about what's going on. I think it was a lot of fact finding we did. Said, hey, would you be willing to endorse this? And honestly, I think they were already going to endorse the individual candidates that were on the board. It makes sense from a standpoint of from their angle. it's a known factor to them. They know what they're going to get. They know what to expect. But we learned a lot of information from them. And so we were open to, dialogue, discussing. And I think that step right there shows that, we reached out, we wanted to talk to you. We want to hear what's going on within our schools. And I think that was that piece that we were really looking for.
Yeah. And I just, I love teachers. I have very close friends, family that are teachers, so the fact that they didn't endorse us, we still love teachers and want to partner with them and respect them.
Yes, absolutely.
I think there's a disconnect. And this was something that I noticed during the Common Core battle 10 years ago when, Common Core, it was Fed Ed, big data, big tech. That was the push. Albany was pushing down this new curriculum. It was a boondoggle for, all of these big corporations. And the unions were really behind it. The teachers were not. And I think sometimes people believe that because the union says this,
right,
or endorses this candidate, that the teachers feel the same way.
Right.
And what I've been hearing from more and more teachers, especially this year, is that they don't agree at all with what the unions are saying.
Yep.
Many of them have kids. They want their schools open. They don't want to be buried behind masks.
Right.
They want sane policies from the board. They also see the writing on the wall. And they see that if we continue with this distancing, masking, the hybrid education, the machine education, which is going to make an enormous amount of money for outside interests, that teachers are going to lose their jobs. If we continue with these type of school closures, and it's going to be very difficult in the next year with the HERO Act that just passed, which basically codified all of those executive orders into law, but not just for COVID-19, but for every airborne virus. We could be looking at permanent school closures or school closures every fall, every winter.
Right.
And parents need to understand this. Teachers don't want that. And if that happens, teachers' jobs are gone. It's gone. I mean, we're looking at 5 years. And so this push from the unions right now, I don't believe is necessary. And the unions are quite active right now. I mean, they are pulling all kinds of shenanigans.
Oh boy, are they ever.
We'll talk to the Fairport. Our last interview is with the Fairport. Woo! In Fairport, it is hot. It is hot in Fairport.
Hotter than this room?
Yeah. I know this room is hot. But I think, though, it is a great strategy to start, maybe stop talking to the unions and start talking to the teachers.
Right.
And figure out how they feel. And so I love that strategy. And I think it's a really smart one.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say to the voters in Penfield?
Yeah, this is the final push, right?
Yeah. Andres and I were the two that could attend tonight. We're also running with Susan Kavanaugh. Susan Kavanaugh is on the ticket. The three of us are running together, aligned to try to take over the three
Susan's
seats.
fantastic. We're sad she can't be here tonight.
Yeah, she had a family commitment, but wanted to make sure we mentioned her. But
yeah.
I think the one thing I'll leave everyone with is that May 18th, we're voting.
Yeah.
You need to have your friends vote. You need to get everyone in your community out that supports this, these types of advocacies to get out there and vote, because that's really going to matter. And I think this year is going to be a big year. I think locally, 2021 is going to be the year of school boards. More so than anything. I
had a friend who came over who's not political. She does school board elections, and she's hot right now. I mean, she is hot about everything that's going on. And she said to me, because she has a senior. And we have seniors who are 18. They are eligible to vote. And they're pissed. She said they don't understand. Like, they have all of these seniors that they just destroyed, right? They ruined their prom. They ruined their graduation.
Well, 2 years of
ruined
this.
their last year. She's like, they all vote now. And what she said was that her daughter was rallying all of her friends to get out and vote. So
that's awesome.
That could be quite interesting.
Anybody over 18, you don't have to be registered. You just have to be over 18 and a resident of the district. So.
Right. And where's the voting located?
Penfield High School.
Penfield High School.
Tuesday the 18th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Awesome. Well, we are cheering you on, just as we've cheered on the Penfield parents from very early on. And I hope that regardless of the outcome of this election, that both of you remain as engaged and involved as you have been with your Board of Education. And I hope that folks, no matter what district you're in, continue to show up to your Board of Education meetings, because it doesn't end after May 18th. There's still a lot of work to be done.
I've said, even if we lose these elections, I'm going to make them miserable. They're going to win. I'll be at every meeting. I will have a speech prepared for every meeting, and I'm not going away. and I've talked to some of the board members too, like this, there's a lot of advocacy that you can do even from outside of school board as well. But I'm really thankful for you guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work you've been doing.
All right. So everyone in Penfield, share this right now. Go to the polls, bring a friend.
Bring your
to
child.
see if your child is old enough to vote. Bring your child and their friends, and please make sure to vote for Andres and Sillins, Kavanaugh, and Phelps.
Yep, Phelps, Sillins, Kavanaugh.
Sillins, Kavanaugh.
We're
Yes.
1, 6, 8 on the ballot.
Okay,
That's right.
great.
1, 6, and 8.
1, 6, and 8.
There we go.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, guys. All right, so let's go down. If you want to usher in the next ones, Christina, we'll go and look at some of these comments. So I'm just going to scroll down. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching right now, welcome to Higley and Joy. This is our happy hour school board special. I have my Stella. Christina has her water, and we have a whole gaggle of candidates who are running for school board in Monroe County. And it's funny, this is just something that your mainstream news media never really reports on. This is something that you won't find on any of the other mainstream news outlets. And we just thought it would be a good idea to give you all an idea of the candidates who are not supported by the union. It seems like every year, school board elections, it's kind of like ho-hum, fait accompli. Whoever the union picks, they have all the money, they have all the organization. That's who gets installed in the school board. And if you multiply that process over many, many years and many decades, eventually what you get is corruption, right? And you get the idea that our schools don't exist for children and taxpayers and parents. They exist solely for the unions, the administration. And at this point now, all of the outside moneyed interests, big data, big tech, big government, and it's as if everyone else is making a whole lot of money off of the system, but the kids have been abused in the past 12 months. And so that's why we decided to do this and invite these wonderful candidates in. And so we now have Sarah Bell. How do I pronounce your last name?
Dole.
That's pretty.
Do you remember those eyeglasses when we were
Bole.
Bole.
Yes.
So it's Bole Dole.
I love it. I love it.
It's probably
Nice.
a song about it we could make, but that's okay. Another day.
All right. So this is Webster.
Yes.
This is Webster.
Webster.
Yeah, this is my home
This
turf.
is you, girl. So
This is my
Christina,
home
yeah, you know
turf.
what's going on in Webster. So
Yeah.
Everyone knows what's going on.
Webster,
That is true.
Webster was the video footage that went viral, and it was fantastic. I hope you were involved in it.
I was
good.
there, and I was interviewed by the news. It was absolutely what saddened me about that whole situation is the news sensationalized the one person who was a little loud and maybe slammed her hands on the desk when there was probably 10 other parents that were very calm, and very respectful.
Sure.
But had great points and great things to ask and really just wanted to be heard. And it was unfortunate that was what was shown because it looked slightly disrespectful, but it was a great moment. It was absolutely a moment
I
of,
loved it.
I heard someone said to my girlfriend, "Oh, that was so embarrassing for Webster School District."
No.
I'm like,
Mm-mm.
well,
No.
if you were there, you would know that it was really empowering. And
Right.
it was really awesome to see that we made a stance and we got what we wanted, if
Yeah.
you will. Everybody,
Yeah.
all they wanted to do was speak. That's all.
Right. And Jill Joy, shout out to Jill Joy, no relation to Shannon Joy.
Right. Oh, yeah.
She
sat behind me.
had-
She sat behind me.
Yes, she had a live stream going the whole time. As
Yes.
everybody knows, I was not at the meeting. I was
No.
driving through the mountains of Pennsylvania, cutting in and out my service, screaming at my
Jill
phone
Joy
in
with
excitement.
the colorful commentary.
Yes.
was-
Colorful, yeah. Tammy,
Tammy,
Yeah.
get back here, Tammy.
get
Oh
back.
my gosh, it was such a waste of time that just kept going when they'd go in the
Right.
bathroom and come back out. It
But
was unfortunate.
what people would see on that live stream was that everybody sat in their chairs quietly, was polite, waited their turn to talk. But you know what? It gets to a point where you have to be a little bit forceful and say,
Totally.
no, we're not leaving. No,
Well,
you're not going to put this on the calendar and then not show up on that day or
Mhm.
cancel us.
And I was one of the 5 people that did send in my question
Right.
and said I would
Right.
like to speak. So when
Right.
she said that nobody had
That was
asked to speak,
unbelievable.
I knew darn well I asked to speak. And I had a very long conversation with the administration about why can't I speak? So it's interesting that she took that approach, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think
because
it backfired. I don't think they're going to be doing that again come June
No.
at
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
meeting.
Yes.
So
yes.
this is a big
Yeah.
election
It
in
is
Webster.
Big. It is big. A lot
People
of
are
eyes on
pretty
this.
upset.
Yes.
People want the current board members gone.
Right.
There has been some very controversial comments that have been made week after, well, I should say meeting after meeting.
Yeah.
They don't like Shannon and I at all, the Webster School District. They can't seem to keep us out of their heads. Social media people lying and making it something that it's not, when really we ask
questions
and you uncover things.
We ask
and
questions
you uncover things.
and we uncover
Right.
things.
And we were the first to report that he had resigned.
Yes.
Even though we lied.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, he was
Yeah. I think he's just upset that we were the first to break that news.
Well, I think that's a clue though, that when you're operating in darkness, you don't want light
Right.
to shine on what you're doing.
Right.
And that is one of the kind of undercurrents of all of these districts, unfortunately.
But I also think that's what made so many parents be vocal and have, I mean,
Right.
we were just talking in the other room, like how many people went out for the election last year or the year prior.
Right.
And people say hardly anyone, like nobody even shows up to vote. And nobody puts themselves out there. And now most districts have 6 to 10 people running along with the incumbents to really try to push change, which is what we need.
Yeah.
And without pulling back that curtain and seeing what's truly going on in these school districts, which we weren't before, because nobody,
Because we
even
trusted
me
them,
too,
because
me
it's
too.
always about the kids.
I paid attention.
right.
I just kind of was like, they're fine. They're, everything's fine. Whatever. Maybe I put my head in the sand and I wasn't paying attention. And maybe it's, you always talk about maybe COVID had some good turnaround with it. And I'm not saying it, so please don't misquote me, but it did make people look into things a little bit more and see that, wait a second, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't seem right. Oh, wait, now I'm going to get involved. Now I'm going to have a voice. Now I'm going to see and talk and keep uncovering things, which might not have happened if this didn't change.
Right. So you're going into a hard position, Sarah, with the current board members. We've seen some of the behavior that goes on. We've heard rumors of them silencing even current board members if they have a different opinion from the majority or those that, as far as I believe, have been in Carm's pocket for years. So you're going into a tough role if you win a seat this year. What are you going to do to make sure that you're not silenced and you're able to still represent us parents and folks, even though it may not be the popular opinion of the current board members? Because you're going to have a challenge heading into this position.
So what I've been doing up until this point, and I didn't even know that I wasn't supposed to put my real phone number on the Webster Central School District page. So I said to one of the girls that are running, I go, are you getting inundated with phone calls? She goes, no, I didn't. I made a Google phone number up. You don't put your real. I'm like, oh, shoot. I didn't know that. I'm answering the phone, right? So I think you still answer it, but it's not your main cell phone. Anyway, my point is, I want people to still feel that they can come to me and ask me what the heck is going on. So yesterday, Webster sent out a thing about the vaccines and teaming up with acute care. A parent reached out to me and said, I don't feel comfortable with this. I have questions. I have concerns.
We all have
parents
questions.
and questions and concerns. Can you, in the position that you're in, ask the district and the board, mostly the superintendent and the board, these questions?
Sure.
So I want to be that person where people feel comfortable coming to me and that they know I'm going to ask. I might not get the answer that you want. I might not get any answer, but gosh darn, I'm going to ask. And I'm going to put it out there that I did ask. I CC the board on everything I do.
Brilliant. Good girl.
We got home from
tactic.
in that meeting we were at last week. She kept saying, if you have anything, just email us. And everyone's like, oh, they'd laugh in the background and say, we do email you, don't respond. Well, if you get home, or she goes, if you've sent us an email and we haven't responded, please resend it. So I went home that night and I sent 7 emails that I sent them throughout this year. Guess what?
Nothing.
No
Nothing.
response.
Crickets.
Nothing.
Crickets.
Tammy, where are you, Tammy?
Where'd you go, Tammy?
And you know what's sad is it's not, I'm sending it to everyone. Can not one of you respond? I'm not asking the president, but even any of you could say something.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
I think the non-responsiveness is a theme again that I'm getting, that, Andres and Nicole talked about
Penfield.
from Penfield. And that is what I'm experiencing in Fairport. And I think it's because they've been insulated. And it's to your point, like we trusted them. That's the thing.
And that's what burns me up the most, is that they're supposed to be representing us, but how are they representing us when they're not accessible to us and they're not answering or having open dialogue?
Or they're covering up all these scandals. Like, I said, when I got interviewed for the news, right? So I said all these great things, but they cut it, whatever.
Of course.
Oh, they always do.
That's right.
They find like
That's
the
why
comment.
we're doing this.
Yeah,
That's
I
exactly.
said
this
the word
is happening.
scandal and they flippantly switched to the
Never had that
Watkins thing.
happen.
Right.
But what I said was, I said something's faltering here. If you're consumed with covering up scandal after scandal or mistake after mistake or cover up, who's educating our children? Like something's faltering.
Right.
If you're consuming yourself with covering your own tush,
Mhm.
who's focusing on bringing our kids back to school? Like,
Right.
Who's having those conversations? I
Well,
mean,
and this is these are the late night conversations that Christina and I have had. Like the very disturbing, like what is going on?
Right.
Like
Right.
and then when you see the layers of corruption, and the first was in Webster, right?
Right.
And you see what they're covering up,
Mhm.
and it's not just the sex scandals. It's not just what happened in filth. I mean, that's filthy and horrible with
right.
some of these people that we entrust with our children, but the money, like acute kids. How much money is acute kids making, bringing
Right.
their business on campus and shooting kids up with
Right.
vaccines?
Well, and the woman that owns it, her husband is a district employee
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And nobody, again, wants to mention that.
So my son had a runny nose, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the teacher sent him down to the nurse. They called me
Mhm.
and she said, well, I know you were just in Florida. I said, well, that is no concern of yours. It's
Right.
after April.
None of your business.
None of your business where we are. She goes, well, you're going to have to get him a COVID test. I recommend you go over to acute care.
Acute kid. Yeah, that charges
Okay,
like
see,
$300
so
a
right there,
test.
So now here I am. We've gone almost a year and never tested anybody. So I don't know. And I called my pediatrician and she's like, well, you can come, but we can't get you in today. And then it
Mhm.
takes 48 hours to get the results. Whereas acute kids was like, we'll get it to you in 30 minutes, which is like, so
What
who
you
isn't
need.
going to go there? Who isn't? So my kid doesn't have to stay home because he only goes to school
Right.
2 days a week.
Mhm.
So
Right.
now if I have him, he's going to have to quarantine another day.
Yep.
And that's a day he would actually go in and actually have a teacher looking at him. I mean, no. So when they said 30 minutes, I go, okay, I'll go to acute care.
And
Yeah.
so they're busy doling out favors, doling out contracts, making the money, and that's what it seems like. And we wouldn't think that if they were transparent.
Just tell me.
right.
me.
We don't have, like, here we are guessing and
Guessing.
wondering.
Well, and you know
And you
you're
tell
onto
yourself a
something
story,
when you
yeah.
get a cease and desist letter,
Right.
right?
And then when
like,
you
I
ask
think
about
that we know
contracts,
that
yeah.
we're onto something.
yeah, and that was Webster too. And this is what I think Webster
Yeah.
citizens, if you're watching right now, share this out to all your friends in Webster and let them know who
Right.
to vote for.
Sarah is going to bring change. She's
Yes.
a parent. She has kids in the
3
district.
kids, 3 kids in the district, 2 in middle school and 1 in kindergarten.
Oh,
And,
bless their heart.
Yeah, bless their heart. And I never thought that I would ever run
Right.
for
Yeah.
school board. I was not this person, and
Right.
I've become this person, and I'm out of my comfort zone. And I love all these people who troll me on Facebook and say things that are not nice, and it does hurt.
Yeah.
By the way,
Right.
it's not easy. And if you think you could do it better with your criticism, please next
Right.
year there's 3 seats open.
And I love your
knock yourself.
honesty too. Like as soon as I tag you or another parent tags you, when someone's like, "Hey, how do they feel about masking?" or
Yeah.
"How do they believe? What do they believe in like
I'm not going to
vaccinations?"
skirt around it.
You, out of all the candidates, have been so responsive
Yeah,
to it
right.
and honest. And you know what? Like I've said my entire life, not everybody. You're not going to
No.
win everybody over.
No.
So
No.
I appreciate your
Today I
honesty
lost
and
someone's vote,
transparency.
so it's going to happen. And you can't make. I said, well, I hope you find a candidate that you agree with 100%. I hope you find that because I don't think it exists.
Well, I think this is a process, and this school board election. What I hope is, regardless of the outcome, I
Yeah.
want to thank you for
and I
and
want
all
to
of
thank you
you
guys.
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yes. And I
You
will
know
be
what?
voting for Sarah.
I wish
On
I
May
could vote for
18th.
Sarah.
May 18th. at Schrader
Can
High
you tell?
School.
Yes, tell us where we should
So
be
it's
voting.
Schrader High School, which is right on Old Ridge Road there. It goes 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's in person. So if you did not vote yet, you cannot do a mail-in absentee vote now. It's too late. So the only way to really do it is
Which
to get
I'm
out
okay
there.
with.
Yeah. Is to get
Okay.
out there and vote. And,
Yes.
please, please, please vote. And if you don't vote for me, just don't vote for Sue Casey.
Yes.
Okay. All
right.
right. Hey, listen.
Sorry, I don't know if I was supposed to name drop, but there we
I'm
go.
You're
fine. I don't-
perfectly fine.
No.
Okay.
You're perfectly fine.
Well,
This is uncensored.
okay.
Yes.
Good. Well, I
Yes.
appreciate your help,
This is
ladies.
Nothing I haven't probably already said.
Well, and regardless of the outcome of these elections, this is a movement. I don't think that any of us can deny that this is a movement.
I've changed as a person.
I think we all have.
We all have.
I think
we've
Yeah.
all been changed.
Yeah. For the good. For the good.
Absolutely.
Well, and for me,
Well,
as an
thank you,
outsider
Sarah.
looking in, I've been, geez, ask my husband. I've been at a 10 for 8 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, this is so exciting. So I'm really just thrilled.
Thank you.
And you got it, girl. And hopefully everyone in Webster share out her name and listen.
Sarah Dole.
Yes, contact these candidates. We still
the
have,
yellow
let's see,
signs.
1, 2, 3. We have 3 full days before this election. That's a lot of door hangers. That's a lot of phone calls. That's a lot. If you want to volunteer for some of these candidates, contact them on Facebook. Reach out.
Post it on social
They'll
media.
put you to
Text
work.
message your neighbors. Text message your kids' friends on the soccer team. Text message
Pile them
everybody.
all into the minivan and drive them to the polls. All of your seniors, anyone who got screwed out of an athletic season, who got screwed out of the prom or graduation,
Or is
get
wearing a
those
mask 'cause they're
kids,
running.
round them up and get them to the polls, and they can make their opinions known
Heard. Yep.
Yes.
to the school board members who didn't consider their feelings, their thoughts, their education, their athletic careers, their scholarships over the past 14 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Consequences.
You're welcome, ladies.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sarah.
Bye-bye,
Thanks so
Sarah.
much.
Thank you. All right. So let's bring in the next group.
So we have Stephanie Arnold who has a question. She says, how can we get the new candidates' contact info? I looked on Facebook for the new Greece ones, but I haven't found them. So we haven't heard, Stephanie, we haven't heard anything about Greece candidates. We don't have, to my knowledge, we haven't been reached out to by Greece candidates. So I'm not really sure. But I'm going to read some of your comments here. So who do we have? Laura Bernat is with us. Thank you, Laura, for joining us. For those of you watching right now, if you want to share this out to all of your friends, this is kind of the wild, wild west. We don't really know what we're doing. This is our first time in the We the People Network studios on Titus Ave. Thank you to Chad Hummel, Revere Realty, also Austin, who is producing the show tonight. Again, this is the first. Christina and I usually are, I'm in my bedroom. Christina's in her office. We're Facebook Living, and we usually do, whatever it is we do for the Facebook Live. So this is the first time we're in the studio. It's a little bit different, but we are going to bring in the next couple candidates. Oh, we have Nicole Sadu and Holly and Jill. I'm going to just massacre Holly's last name. So I'm going to we're going to do Clayton first. Okay. Clayton, get in here. Have a seat. Our favorite doctor in the whole wide world, Clayton Baker, is with us. He has been a warrior activist with us. You guys have seen him multiple press conferences regarding a lot of the lawsuits that have been going on. We have the major lawsuit, parents suing 16 school districts in Monroe County, plus Mike Mendoza, plus Adam Bello, plus Andrew Cuomo in the state. And Dr. Baker has been a tireless advocate, very helpful in that pursuit. You also may have seen him at the Pittsford School Board meeting. And this is the phenomenal footage, Dr. Baker, where you told the Pittsford School Board, listen, if you can't get the job done, and this was to the superintendent, Mike Pirro, you said, if you can't get the job done, then resign. We'll hire someone else to do it. You make $250,000 a year. You make more than Andrew Cuomo. We've seen other superintendents across New York State and across the country get the schools open full day, 5 days a week, K through 12. Why can't you do it? And that was very well received by basically everyone. And I posted it out. It's had, I want to say, over 10,000 views on my social media. People all across the country, Clayton. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Nicole's running a couple minutes behind. So
all right,
we'll chat with Clayton about what's been going on. He is also a Pittsford parent, as Shannon had mentioned. And I want to thank you, Dr. Baker. You've been in this fight since day one as a medical expert on our lawsuits, really just letting people know the facts of COVID. As you say, COVID is real, but the risk to children is minimal, and children belong in schools. So tell us a little bit about, what your experience has been as you've been advocating not only as a very passionate parent to get your children back in school, but also, as a physician who sees what's going on here.
Yeah, thanks. I think the first thing that I'd point out is just to reinforce what you just said, Christina, and that is that, COVID is definitely real. COVID has taken a lot of lives.
Mm-hmm.
In Monroe County, it's taken 0 lives under age 30. 0. It is absurd that the children are not back in school full time. And people say, oh, well, there's this red zone, yellow zone, blah, blah, blah. And my response is Iowa. Okay. In Iowa, several months ago, they passed a law saying every kid goes back to school. They didn't say whether it was 300 cases per 100,000 or 200 cases or 100 and whatever. They sent the kids back to school. And of course, some of the districts probably had higher transmission or higher case positivity than others. They're all back in school and they're all fine. So I say to Mike Mendoza, oh, it's 300, it's 200, it's 175. Iowa. They opened the whole place up and it's fine.
Sure.
So the whole premise that they're coming at us with is a bogus premise.
Sure.
It's been disproven in Iowa. It's been disproven in Florida. It's been disproven in Georgia. It's been disproven in Suffolk County, for goodness sake. It's been disproven over the last few weeks in Onondaga County.
Sure.
The whole premise is bogus.
Sure.
And people here have to realize you have to be less provincial, and you have to realize that there's huge swaths of the country that have already proven that this nonsense is just that. It's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And you know what the other thing is it's harmful nonsense. It is deeply harmful for the children. I've been saying this since last summer, that the mental health toll on children is chronic repetitive trauma to children. This is chronic repetitive psychological trauma.
Right.
And you cannot be a legitimate public health official
Nicole is here.
and
All
not
right.
understand that you are traumatizing people. And if there's no good reason to do it, you have to stop what you're doing.
Right.
It's really antisocial behavior that
Right.
we're seeing from these people.
There was a recent study done nationwide, and they're looking at suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and self-harm. And this just came out yesterday. It's up 173% in adolescents.
If you were a public health official, are you not responsible for the mental health of the children in your area?
We don't talk about that.
We don't
Dr.
talk
Baker.
about that. We talk about
Mhm.
COVID. It's all COVID all the
Right.
time.
It's
So what
abusive.
are-
It's abusive to kids, and that's a big statement to make.
It's a disgusting statement that we even have to utter those
Right.
words.
And the fact that you have so many parents who've gone to so many school board meetings, and they are pouring their hearts out to school board members, and they're sitting there stone-faced, saucer eyes, with nothing to say. See, this is what we've picked up on, Christina, and this is what I think, this is what's creating so much angst among parents, because that's not normal.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's not normal for a school to be so hogtied and to be so incapable
Right.
of veering from whatever playbook it is that they're all playing from, that
Right.
we're not privy to.
Right.
That's what's making everyone crazy.
So before we start chatting here a little bit with Nicole too, tell us about what you've noticed in your school district with the folks that are running for board.
Yeah.
As we know, Nicole is the only one who's come out and said that schools should be open 5 full days. What have you noticed? I know that you and I have had some interesting conversations.
Well, I'll just summarize the last board meeting, which some of it ended up on social media, and is that we had 5 of the 6 candidates in that room, and 1 candidate spoke up in favor of, well, really 1 candidate spoke.
Yeah.
And that was Nicole,
Nicole.
who spoke very eloquently and with great,
Her facts were remarkable.
Remarkable
I even
facts.
learned a little bit. And
Exactly.
I'm like, wow.
I love facts.
So
I
we-
love data. and
Wow.
facts.
Yeah.
we-
76% of schools in New York State are open.
Right.
I learned from what you
Wow.
shared with everybody.
Now it's 77.
Oh, 77.
Sorry.
It's growing. It's
So-
growing. Still not here in
She
Monroe
really knows her
County.
facts.
Yes.
I check burbio.com every day.
So anyway,
That's
just to transition it over to Nicole, because I don't want to steal her thunder, but she was there presenting these facts. The 3 New York State Union of Teacher endorsed candidates were all in the room. One is the incumbent, Renee Kazakos, who just never says a word. I've never heard her speak. How you spend a year on a deliberative body during a controversial time and never utter a word.
Right.
I don't know what you're doing there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know her well. I'm sure she's a wonderful mother, but this is a deliberative body. They're supposed to be discussing things and making decisions. I've never seen her speak, and I've never seen her vote anything but aye to what they put up.
Right.
Now, that's not a deliberative. That's not a person acting as an independent person in a deliberative body.
Weird.
It's weird.
It's very weird. And we're seeing it across the county. It's very strange.
And the other thing that I would say is the next 2 people who were endorsed, and here's our beautiful glossy thing. I got 2 of them.
You want to hold it up towards the
I got 2
There
of
you
them.
go.
We've got Kazakos, we've got Pelucio, and we've got Casey. And then 2 days later, we get another one. It's slightly different. They've got 2 different things here. And of course, it's got the teachers' unions on it. Those people sat in the back when all this stuff was going on, and they did not say one word. They never stood up to speak. They never said a word. And then they slunk out at the end, just like the incumbent. And I think this is
and that's who the union's endorsing.
That's what I'm
just
saying.
Mind blowing.
So my take on it is
right. Does the union want the schools open or not? Because as you mentioned, and we received those glossy flyers, and we see the pattern, right? We saw them for Fairport. We saw them for Webster. We saw them for Pittsford, where they're literally identical. They have the NYSUT logo in the corner. It tells you to vote yes to their inflated budgets. But nowhere on that, as you mentioned to me, Dr. Baker, does it say open the schools 5 full days.
No.
It's maddening. So you're signing up for more of the same old as you pay more and more money.
Right. You're going to pay more for the same terrible thing.
Exactly.
But I'm going to sit back. But I just, the one person who's running, who stood up and brought facts and brought eloquence is Nicole.
Yes,
So I'm voting for Nicole. And I'll say one other thing. I'm going to bullet vote for Nicole because there are no other good candidates. It's yes for Nicole, no on the budget. And that's what the people I'm speaking to in Pittsford who are of a like mind are going to do. We're going to have 3 people on there, but if you don't bullet vote, you could be canceling your own vote out if Nicole's in 3rd place and someone else is in 4th.
Right. Clayton, we've had enough, Clayton.
Yes.
You've had enough time, Clayton. 3 minutes is up.
Clayton,
Tammy,
Amy.
So Nicole, I think it's important to mention, she started a group here in Monroe County as well. It really kind of started with Fairport parents, Pittsford parents, folks on the east side. And much like myself, Nicole was a mom that had just had enough, and she saw what was happening with her children, and she built kind of her own movement, particularly on the east side of the county. Tell us a little bit about that. And then Nicole took it a step further than me. People all the time say to me, why aren't you running for school board? Which I have my variety of reasons for another show.
I tried to get you to run for school board. I said, Christina,
I think I've got enough on my plate at the moment. But that's for another show. But Nicole then decided to go ahead and run for board. So tell us a little bit about, was this like on your bucket list in life, or how did you get here?
No, it wasn't. And I'm actually a newcomer to the area. I only moved here in 2017. I spent 15 years in North Carolina where I was a college professor of English. And then I have Canadian family and family in Pittsford. So we decided to move up here so that we'd be closer to family. And really, honestly, if you had told me that I would be running for school board this time last year, I would have thought you were crazy. But
it's a common thread.
Yes. We're all feeling that way.
I think shell-shocked.
Yeah, right. And I think what happened was, first of all, my husband is a medical doctor. He actually was on the front lines of COVID. So I am literally the last person who would want to see huge COVID outbreaks, because that was literally my husband who was taking care of those patients. But I think that as we were moving through the school year, I became increasingly concerned that our kids were being kept out of school, even as more and more data was coming in to show that schools were safe and that they were not involved in community spread, that kids, particularly younger kids, didn't spread. Mm-hmm. And I felt that we were doing such a damage to our children, to a generation of children, and we needed to put we need to make the kids a priority and do some risk balancing. So there's never going to be anything, such thing as zero risk, but there is risk to everything. So keeping schools closed has its own risks. The risks of intellectual, emotional, social development of children.
Right.
And I started talking to people about it on social media in the fall. I started lobbying. And then I think in early December started Open Schools Monroe County. And as of mid-December, there were 2 members in the group, me and my friend who is more technologically accomplished than I am, and helped me to start the Facebook page. And now it's almost 500 parents.
Excellent.
Mostly Fairport, and I think it's mostly Fairport, Pittsford, and as you say, Christina, like that East Side.
Mm-hmm.
And what we noticed was, as time went on, more and more people were becoming more and more concerned that the schools were not going back. Infection rates were dropping, vaccinations were rolling out, teachers and staff in schools were vaccinated. And I remember there was a time when the administration was telling us, well, our priority is just to get teachers and staff vaccinated, even though the CDC was saying they didn't need to be for schools to go back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then the rules changed, the goalposts moved.
I was just about to say, we're seeing this theme of the goalposts are constantly
and it's the
moving.
Same every district.
Yep. No matter what you do, no matter, what threshold that you hit, no matter what it is, they constantly then set you out another X amount of weeks or X amount of months. And it's like, when is this going to end? Right.
Well, exactly. When is it going to end? And
Right.
that is what really concerns me, because people have a lot of faith that, it's going to be fine in the fall. But our superintendent just sent us
we've
a
learned
note
that
out.
lesson.
Right.
He just sent an email out saying, we hope to open in the fall. And
Right.
what we as parents and citizens need to understand is that it won't stop until we make it stop, until
Yes,
we raise our
girl,
voices
preach
and
it.
make it stop.
Thank you.
The schools there are many schools in districts downstate that are open right now.
Yep.
Suffolk,
Large districts too.
Yep. Oh yeah. Suburban districts,
Mhm.
large districts, Suffolk County, Nassau County, Westchester County. I talked to parents in those counties where their districts opened in late March, early April. They brought the kids back in. I asked one parent, how did you do it? He said, I got 400 parents on a Zoom call with the superintendent, and then it happened.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's been a theme we've talked about, right? Like, you need to do what you can do in your corner of the world. You can't just depend on folks like Nicole or myself or you, Shannon, to do all this heavy lifting. We
Right.
need parents to come out. I say all the time, social media has been such a blessing in so many ways. We can get information to people very quickly. But for a lot of people, they go on, they do their venting, they moan, they crone, and it ends there.
Right.
Versus you wonder, if social media didn't exist, they'd need to get up their pent out energy somewhere else. Would they be taking to the streets? So I always say to folks, it's great. You can come on social media at 11 at night, complain all you want. But then what are you going to do about it? And folks like yourself and even like Dr. Baker, they've taken that extra step to show up at the board meetings, write letters, start groups, run for board. And I think it's just, we need more parents that are going to stand up
Yes.
and support folks like these wonderful people who've been fighting for your children all along.
And that's everything. I came to, as you all know, I was at a 10 on March 15th. Okay. I was like, we have a deadly virus. And yes, it is deadly to a certain population of people. I think the first 4 weeks, we could give everyone a little wiggle room to figure out what we were dealing with.
Right.
Right.
I think we were all a little unsure.
Everyone was a little unsure. I had my skepticism, but after that 4 weeks, it became very clear that even if COVID-19 were dangerous to kids, to a small percentage of kids, you have to weigh the detriment. You have to weigh the unintended consequences of locking them down, shutting their schools, ripping them away from their friends, ripping them away from their schedules, their activity, their academics.
Right.
Their physical education, their athletic careers, their music careers, their drama careers. Like this is, you have to live. Even in, we've had pandemics. I mean, throughout the history of the world, we've had deadly pandemics and we have survived them. It's not easy or fun, but you figure out a way to do it. You don't commit societal suicide.
Right.
And what we've done is we've offered up our children literally as sacrifices for the political agendas of people way above us. And I think that's a Monroe County thing. You know, to your point, 77% of schools in New York are open. What's going on in Monroe County? Like, what is the problem here?
We've got some major problems here.
Why is it that these schools copy paste, the same? It's all of our board members are like the Stepford wives.
Yes.
Literally. Like,
yes. And one thing I found very interesting that I want to point out to both of you, which I'm sure you noticed, was when you put Mike Pero in the hot seat and you said, you know, this is Dr. Mendoza doing this. I feel kind of bad for you, quite frankly. This is Dr. Mendoza. He laughed and he was uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable laugh when he didn't know what to say. That speaks volumes. We know who the puppet master is here holding this county.
There's two Lord Voldemorts in running the Pittsford School District right now. This is my opinion.
Voldemorts.
There really are. They shall not be named. And that's Mike Mendoza, and that's this teachers union.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as soon as I said Mike Mendoza, he had
the awkward laugh.
Very, very hard time.
Yep.
And as soon as I said New York State Union of Teachers, they jumped all over me like crazy.
Amy, Clayton, your time's over, Clayton.
Up. And
no
I'll tell you
Don't
this.
talk about the union, Clayton.
This is just something we need to know is that the union tentacles in Pittsford are much deeper and much more high up than we might think, because the head of the American Federation of Teachers, of course, is Gollum herself, you know, Randy Weingarten. Get a picture of the two next to each other. She looks like Gollum with hair. But anyway, that's just the way it is. That's mean, but it's true. But anyway, the person in charge of the New York State Union of Teachers, of course, is Andy Pilata. His executive vice president is a woman named Jolene DeBrango, who was a teacher and the union boss at Barker Road Middle School in Pittsford for years. So she and Pero know each other extremely well. She worked there for years. She left in 2017. But if you go back and try to pull up some of the district board data and stuff, she's on this as late as 2019, even though she moved to Albany in 2017. So the tentacles of this union, I haven't figured it all out yet, but they go very, very strong.
Well, and I think that they know that you're onto them, Dr. Baker.
Well, and I think it's worth noting too that earlier we actually had pandemic plans before 2020 in Canada, in the United States, in Europe. And none of these plans, even for pandemics with fatality rates far in excess of what COVID-19 has produced, none of these plans ever said that schools should be shut for more than 12 weeks. That was the absolute maximum. And by the way, that was for a pandemic with a fatality rate much, much higher than that of COVID-19.
Right.
So we have really diverged from all our plans. This is not normal. This is very strange.
Yeah. So we're running out of time here, but I know tomorrow you're going to be out in the community. You want to meet with people. I know you've been doing such a fantastic job. I'm an alumni of Pittsford. My family's there. My in-laws are there still. You've been pounding the pavement, going door to door. Tell us tomorrow where folks can come out and meet you, and tell us where they should go vote on May 18th. You're the only candidate, Pittsford.
Yep.
This is your candidate. None of the other ones want schools open 5 days.
Bullet voting. There were a couple questions on the feed about bullet voting and what that means. And Clayton, real quickly, can you explain then that?
I can explain my understanding of it. Basically, you've got a ballot where you vote for in Pittsford, 3 people out of 6. And those 3 people you vote for each get 1 vote, and the people you don't get 0. But you don't have to vote for 3. You can vote for 1, you can vote for 2.
That's your bullet.
That's your bullet. Exactly. And so if you do that, then you guarantee that the candidate that you really want.
Oh, so don't just choose other people to choose them.
So what you're saying is, since there aren't any other good, viable candidates in Pittsburgh, which we've already established that they're really
so
locked
sad.
up with the unions, that if you want your vote to matter in Pittsburgh on Tuesday, share this with all your friends and let them know bullet vote, single vote for for Nicole.
Right. And then, I mean, we're just basically, Kristen Ryan, some other people that are very active in Pittsford are saying, vote for Nicole, no on the budget. And
No on the budget.
And that's going to, and the other thing is we're not going to get in Pittsford. We're not as lucky as some of these districts that have several really good viable candidates. We have one great candidate though. So we got to get her on the board.
Right.
And even though she won't be a majority, we will have an honest, uncompromised person
Yes.
who's representing us. And that's
Right.
huge.
That
Because
is
right
like
now we have
Hamill's nose
zero.
under the tent.
Right now we-
Well, and someone who's going to ask questions.
Yes.
Because one thing I've noticed having attended many board meetings is that there just aren't enough questions being asked. So tomorrow you can meet with me between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. on 8 North Main Street in Pittsford Village. And it's just in an area just beside 8 North Main Street. I'll be there to answer any questions or concerns that people have. And I'm really looking forward to meeting people.
Yeah. And where do people vote on May 18th in Pittsford?
On May 18th, you want to go between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. to Barker Road Middle School.
Say hello to Mr. Para while you're there.
Yes, on May 18th.
Jean
Thank you.
Murphy says, I'm a former New York State administrator who is new to Pittsburgh. Nicole has my single vote. There you go.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well,
And-
thank you to both of you for coming in. And, as an alumni of Pittsford schools, it has been quite exciting to watch what's going on in the district.
Well,
and we wish you well.
Pittsburgh's an important district too, because it's a bellwether district. It's
Yeah.
a district
People
that is watched by
move.
the country.
Right. People move to Pittsburgh for the schools,
Right.
which is a whole other
Well,
conversation.
and it's nationally recognized as
Yeah.
one of the best schools in the country.
Yes.
So goes Pittsburgh
For
often.
now.
So goes the
Yeah.
rest. And so, and you want to fight for that. And yes, I agree. We haven't mentioned the budget votes as a strategy, but just so everyone politically, you have to, and this applies to school boards. It applies to, state government, federal government. The only thing they understand is money. That's really all they understand. And if you
Right.
vote no on a budget, that doesn't mean that you're defunding your children. It doesn't mean that you're going to vote no on every budget. It doesn't mean that teachers aren't going to get paid and they're not going to get the retired teachers aren't going to get their pensions. It means that you are showing this school board and your administration that you do not have confidence in the way that they utilize taxpayer money. They are not being good stewards of your money and you want more scrutiny. So it is a message, and that is a message. I'm just telling you all right now that they will hear loud and clear.
Absolutely.
If you want your schools open, voting no on the budget is critical. Oh, but I want to get the new field. I want to get the new auditorium. It's not going to matter if your kids aren't back at school.
No.
Okay. None of
No.
it matters.
No.
Parents need to seize control of the schools. And one of the ways to do that is to vote no. So I just wanted to
Absolutely.
make that.
Yeah, and I just want to add into just in terms of understanding what's going on right now, New York State Department of Health has regulations that tie 6 to 12 grades attendance, full-time attendance to case rates in the community. We think, well, okay, we're going to beat this and it's not going to be a problem for September. Well, a lot of experts say this is a seasonal virus.
Right.
So it's going to peter out. Now it's May. As we move into June, it's going to peter out. It's already on its way down in terms of case rates, but what's going to happen
get
in
ready.
November? In
Mhm.
November, you could see those case rates going up again. And if the New York State Department of Health regulations remain as they are, we could see our kids kicked out into hybrid again. There's no promises. There are no guarantees. The only guarantee is if parents raise their voices and say no.
Right.
Absolutely. And I'll talk a little bit about the hybrid. I'll talk about the long-term plans when we usher we have 2 more candidates coming in. Nicole, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank
I've
you.
really enjoyed
Thank
getting
you.
to know you, Nicole. And I'm really glad that you're
Thank
running.
you.
And yes, vote Nicole Sadu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May
All right.
18th, Barker
There
Road.
we go. Dr. Baker, you want to escape or you want to sit with us? Why don't you?
I'll do whatever you want.
Stand
You tell me what to do.
We need
It's your
a
show. I'm
doctor's
just,
opinion. It's not really, we don't know what we're doing. But it is nice to have, I know that a lot of people, it's nice to have someone with your gravitas, someone who has a medical degree. You understand a lot of these things. All we hear from is Mike Mendoza. And so it's nice to have you here to kind of bounce things off of. But I want to just talk quickly about I want to talk quickly about really we've been talking about this kind of mystery as to why is it that the unions are so invested in keeping the schools closed? Why is this happening in Monroe County to such an extent, right? And a lot of this has to do with the long-term plans. And you all know I've been studying the politics of education for almost 10 years, almost a decade. So I've been in this battle. It started with Common Core many, many years ago. I've peeled back the onion. I've looked at the Gates Foundation, Race to the Top, No Child Left Behind, all of the federal legislation that kind of took over the local school districts, a slow eroding of parental rights in exchange for, states and the federal government. And the union is always involved in this. And if you want to understand why these schools, why the unions are so intent on keeping the school closed, it's because the long-term strategy, if you look at Pearson, you look at the plans for reimagining education, you look at 21st century education, next gen education. If you go in and you look at their white papers and you watch their promotional videos and you look at when they're talking about 21st century education, it does not involve brick and mortar schools.
Right.
Period. So they're in a process of transitioning us from what we've known to be school, which is physical human teachers, brick and mortar schools. The kids go to the school, they play athletics, they have interaction with their friends. That's not what Bill Gates is envisioning for your children.
Right.
That's not what big tech or big data is envisioning for your children. And Bill Gates and big tech and big data and big government have paid the unions, they have paid them off to transition the schools in this fashion. And so what they see, what they're looking at, and what we've seen the plans,
Right.
$50 million in grants over the summer to
Right.
get schools in New York State hybrid ready.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. For those of you who are teachers that are listening to the sound of my voice, your union is selling you out.
That's what I was going to say, is that if you're a teacher under the age of 40, I can't imagine that you would support this in any way, shape, or form, because you'll be choosing a new profession in a few years.
Right.
And that people don't recognize this is really unfortunate.
They don't believe it because how could there be such a diabolical plan? It's not really diabolical. It's just rich people who want to get richer.
Right.
And
Right.
it's government who wants more control. Like, this is the history of the world. It's not really anything more than that. But what they envision, what they've told us, what they've laid out for us, regional schools, they look like factories, warehouses. Your kids go in, they're in cubicles, they are socially distanced, and they are attached to a machine. You don't have teachers, you have facilitators.
Right.
And the lessons are beamed in from Albany or from Washington, D.C. And this makes big data and big tech an enormous amount of money.
Right.
This saves money for the state. They don't have to pay pensions. They don't have to pay for the groundskeeping. They don't have to pay for facilities, right? They can streamline all of that. What do I need to do here?
Button on your camera.
Oh, my camera went off.
When you think about Shannon, the sort of little guy, the I don't know, the sixth grade teacher that's 35 and that's going to be looking for a new profession in 5 years, you also need to look at the converse of that, the other side. And then you may know, I don't know this for a fact, but it'd be interesting to find out what's been promised to these superintendents.
Yes.
What's been promised to these higher level administrators
Right.
that are willing to sit here like fools.
Right.
I'll
Well,
tell
And,
you.
they know that they're going to get something when this
Something.
happens.
There was a write-up in, I believe, the Washington Post almost a decade ago about Randy Weingarten and the deal that was made. And there was when Common Core came in, the teachers, rank and file teachers, hated it. There was, in fact, as a parent that was advocating for kids, we were aligned with the teachers, the local teachers unions, not the state, not the federal. But there was a big story about the deal that was made. It was Randy Weingarten in a room in Washington, D.C., and it was the union heads, and they were negotiating. And basically, all of the big wigs in the room were saying to them, this is over.
Right.
21st century education is going this way. It is
Right.
tech. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. And from what we heard, the deal was that the unions would give up the teachers and they would begin to unionize the illegal immigrants. and all of the illegal immigrants that were pouring over the border, that would be where the unions would shift their resources. That's who they would begin to organize. And that would be that. And so this is, I would love to find, I had the article and I've been looking for it ever since and I can't find it, but that's how these deals are made. Right. And so teachers need to understand your unions, your federal and your state unions will sell you out. That doesn't mean there isn't a place for unions. I would encourage teachers to start unionizing locally. That's what would be my advice to them. Right. Is shed the big unions, the state.
They don't care about you.
You come together locally and you form your own local unions and you fight for your jobs.
Right.
You fight for your jobs and you align with parents against administrators and school boards who are getting something on the side.
Exactly.
So, sorry, I took a little bit.
That's okay. So we have 2 candidates with us from Victor Central School District, which is just outside Monroe County. I brought them in because things in Victor have definitely been heated this past year.
Nice.
Some of our biggest supporters are from Victor on Rock for Educational Freedom, Julie being one of them, Julie Haberfield.
Love her.
Yeah. And, it's the same story, right? Like, so the interesting thing about COVID and this COVID task force, this reopening task force, Mendoza is like the health expert for the Finger Lakes region. Holds really no authority in Ontario County, but your superintendent, Tim Terranova, seems to really like what Mendoza has to say, and you guys are hanging tight with Monroe County. I know a lot of schools in Ontario County have moved on. They're down in the southern tier. Yeah. They've moved on, but Victor is hanging strong with Monroe County. So we have with us Jill Mathis and Holly. Is it Bosvert?
It's Bovair.
Bovair.
Yes.
Bovair.
I didn't even try. I didn't even
It's okay. We'll split up the hard names. So they are with us from Victor. Tell us, so you guys have a sister group kind of to Rock for Ed, Ontario County Parents Advocating for Full-Time School Reopening.
Yes.
What made you 2 ladies get involved in running for school board? I have a feeling that your story is probably pretty similar to most of the fed up moms that have been with us here tonight. But what's going on in Victor and what's going on with you 2?
So I'm Holly Bovair. I ran last year for a seat. There was 9 of us and so quite a turnout. But it was COVID and the agenda and the missions, for all of us were very different than what they are this year. I didn't win last year. I came in 4th out of 9. So not too shabby.
That's close, girl.
Yeah. And no Facebook at the time. So it was just word of mouth and just, friend base. And so fast forward this year and unhappy with the lack of instructions our kids were getting last year through the remote model or the all virtual model. And then my daughter is in 3rd grade and just went back 2 weeks ago full time. And so it's taken a long time to get to where we are. And just a lot of frustration is what brought me to say, hey, I'm going to come back out, fight for my own kids and fight for yours too. So.
Yeah.
And I'm Jill Mathis. This is my first run at the board. I am learning a lot and taking it all in. My main goal for running is to bring a different perspective to the table. I think it's important with the current state of our world that we're having conversations and collaborating, and we're not one end or the other. I really believe in my heart of hearts that the people at the local level, we all have the same goal. We all want our kids back in school. So I'm trying to understand what's preventing that from happening. Yeah. Really down and dirty. I don't want the political correct response, and I'm not going to get anything but that unless I'm part of that team. Right. So I want to know what's going on.
Right. And what is going on in Victor exactly? Because I hear that there's some good guys on the board. Then I hear there's some bad cats. People don't understand, 1 minute, Tim is going to open the schools and then the next minute he's not. And it just seems like there is a lot of confusion in Victor. It's like they feel conflicted. It's blowing with the wind here, how Mr. Terranova is standing with this.
There's no transparency. And Jill and I are big on transparency, accountability, laying it all out there, speaking your truth, telling the parents what's really going on. Yeah. And that's not what we get. And you have a board of 7 who we just went last night to the board meeting, and there was a woman who stood up at the podium to a group of people with no emotion. You know, they're masked, even though they're 6 feet apart. The feeling was very sterile, very cold. And this woman got up there and she couldn't even get her message out. She tried so hard because she was in tears, wanting her children who are grades 7 through 12 back to school.
Well, and once again, they look at you stone faced.
Well, and you can tell even your body language with a mask, if you feel compassion or empathy,
Right.
or
You can see it in their eyes.
You can see it. And they were nothing. And I said to Jill, if we were sitting on that board and Jill
You'd
could
be like
agree,
in
we would have
tears.
gotten up and hugged that woman. It's not right. It was a terrible feeling. It was
right.
so detached.
Well,
so,
and isn't
how
your
do you
board
ladies feel to hear that that's exactly the way it is
everywhere?
at every board meeting in Monroe
it's
County?
disgusting.
It's disgusting, isn't
It's
it?
disgusting.
It's exactly.
Isn't that the place that parents are supposed to go to voice their concern?
And we've
feel
trusted
and who's
Right.
feels
And we've
comfortable.
trusted these people with
You
our
elected
schools,
these
our
people.
children to do what's best for us. And yet we feel like they're completely shut off to us and
Yes.
no emotion. And I think it's actually worth mentioning, actually, Clayton, that Amy Thomas is the head of all of the Monroe County School Board folks. And we certainly have seen her performance and dramatics at Pittsford's. And you wonder, like, are these conversations going on behind closed doors? Are they meeting and having,
They have to
you know,
be.
I mean,
They
it's,
have to be.
they are so in sync with one another.
Right.
It's
And the
very
way that
rote.
they're handling their
It's very
parents,
vanilla.
it's
It's very cookie cutter.
right.
And if Victor wants different people that will bring a strong voice, advocate for their kids to get back to school and not lay down, then that's Jill and I.
All right.
Yeah.
I just real quick want to address though the one thing I think that we actually had the conversation on the way here. There's a lot of parents asking like, what are our guidelines? What's preventing us? We had a quarantine in our district recently.
Oh, that's a
Um,
nightmare. I saw
and,
that on
you know,
the
what are
news.
the guidelines that happened? I think because we're so close to Monroe County and we're having trouble getting answers from people within the Ontario County, or we can't get a clear answer. So there's a lot of like, do we follow Monroe County because we are so close, or do we like?
Oh,
where-
you need
where are
to
we
follow
making these
Ontario
decisions?
County.
Right.
As a-
Dr. Baker.
Right.
As a physician,
Dr. Baker for
He'll
health
give you a plan.
commissioner.
Please help us, because I was on the phone with Mary Beer today, the health department, the woman in our Ontario County Health Department, and we are getting one word from her: stay away from the districts. Don't come to them about any quarantine protocol. It's with me. It's with me. And then it's the New York State drops down the guidelines and I enforce it. And then someone's coming and saying, no, that's not the case. It's at the local level. So it's all that back and forth.
Yeah,
Right.
basically.
It's the circular finger pointing squad.
Absolutely. And we've seen
That's
that
the thing.
even in court. Now, just to give you an example very quickly, when Mendoza was sued and Bello was sued, they basically, they had unsigned affidavits. Their lawyers wrote it. They wouldn't sign them because they knew they were
Right.
lying.
Right.
And they sent out a thing that said, we have no authority over the schools. Now, if anybody on earth believes Mike Mendoza does not have incredible, he basically has total de facto.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's like
Even-
under the radar.
Right.
It's like he doesn't officially have power.
But he's
Right.
threatening
But they
people
all
behind the
do what
scenes.
they
They
say.
all do
Right.
exactly what he
It's
says.
a made up title, that whole like,
Yeah.
Finger Lakes reopening.
He has-
I'm the medical.
just so you know,
no authority.
Just so
none.
you know, in Victor, he has zero
Right.
Of course.
And we've
authority
heard
over
that
it.
from Wayne County, Livingston County. We've asked the schools down there that are fully open, like when we've talked to Warsaw and such, how are you open? Like, and they're like, well, our health, our county health director, blah, 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 blah. And they basically have said, Mendoza, this is not your county.
Right.
So
He's
whatever's
not
going
trying
on
to
in
step in
Ontario
at all.
is ridiculous.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
sure he
very-
is. He won't
well-
say it to you. He will say one thing publicly. When Chad Hummel got arrested for going to the baseball game without the mask on,
Right.
he was the first one to stand up and say, I don't agree with the state guidelines. But if you don't think he's deeply involved in these schools having these ridiculous
Even in
guidelines,
Victor being a totally separate.
Oh,
county.
I believe so. There's parents that I can work you with off air who've met with him in his office, and he
Okay.
brings up Mendoza.
I will tell you right now,
Really?
Mike Mendoza has called individual principals of schools and threatened to go to the media.
even out of the county,
And-
even like
Well, private schools, so
Okay.
not even public schools,
Okay.
but he has threatened to go to the county and expose them if they don't shut all of these kind of random. So
Yeah.
he is behind the scenes
he's orchestrating a bit of it, but
orchestrating.
I'd love to network you with the folks that had these meetings who happen to be healthcare professionals as well.
Well, Ontario County is looking like we're a little bit more strict with our guidelines and our protocols of keeping our kids quarantined at home. And actually, parents are looking.
Well,
to wanna go
I think
Monroe
actually
County
people
route.
here in Monroe County have just started ignoring it. That's probably the
What's that?
difference. I said
Oh.
people here in Monroe County have just started ignoring it. Mendoza's kind of dug his own grave where we're like, yeah, okay,
Well,
yeah,
parents are
here we go,
coming to
whoop,
us.
whatever.
Saying,
Yeah,
well, why are we not doing what Monroe County's
The
doing?
short answer is he has no authority over Ontario County whatsoever, legally in any manner.
Right.
And this Finger Lake stuff is smoke and mirrors. It's nonsense.
It is
I would
absolute
just
nonsense.
with these types of things, you have to at some point just dismiss the premise. You are not going to win if you argue on his turf.
right.
What you have to say is that you have no authority here. Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here.
Well, yeah, I
Right.
mean, he's
So-
out of county, so I don't
Right.
even understand his motive for being
Because
Right.
he
over the
wants
line.
control.
Right.
He
But
wants
I
control.
think the big thing though, back to
Victor is kind of Monroe County.
Yeah, they say we have tended to go more.
It's they
that direction
people
than-
there a lot of people who live in Victor work in Monroe County, so there's just a lot of
right. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
folks too that like live in Monroe County but are districted to Victor too, I know as well.
Oh, that's true.
So
But
so
let's get your candidacy though, so because we want to make sure that
Yes.
these girls get. So what you guys so thank you both for running. That's
Yes.
Absolutely.
and we've been saying to all the parents here. I mean, this is amazing.
It takes courage, and
Yeah.
you're showing
it
courage.
does.
Have you had any trouble with the unions, or have people been nice? Have people been nice to you on social media, or has it been brutal?
No, I would say, so we were just having this conversation before we came in. Our teacher association, it does not typically endorse candidates.
Okay.
It's something that they traditionally do not do. And when I asked specifically, because the language said in our questionnaire, we may be endorsing a candidate or two this year. And I reached out to our VTA president and said, well, what criteria? What are you looking for? And he said, if somebody was anti-public education that was running for a board seat, that's who they would be, they would be going against. Like they want somebody, like they're just looking for somebody that's.
So are they going to endorse you?
No, they're not endorsing anybody this year.
Okay, well, that's
okay.
better than nothing.
Good for
All right.
That's
them.
better than nothing.
Yeah.
All right,
we're
Monroe
all pro
County,
public
take note.
education
Right.
because we're
Stay
running
out
for a
of
seat
it.
on the school
Yeah.
board. What's that?
I said Monroe County schools take notes, stay out of it.
Right, so yeah,
Teachers
that's new to
unions should
us
stay
that
out of
people
it.
are getting, the unions are getting involved with the candidacy. I didn't even
Oh,
realize
that's been
an
that's
issue.
been forever around
yeah.
these parts.
That's like
I'm
your,
sure it's happening, right? Just maybe not publicly in Victor. I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Others-
All right.
We haven't heard
So
of it.
where should people go to vote on May 18th in Victor?
So May 18th in Victor, the primary gymnasium from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay.
There's 5 of us on the ballot.
How
2
many
incumbents,
seats?
2 seats,
2
3-year
seats?
terms, 2 are incumbents, and then there's 3 of us. And so, yeah, Jill and I would love your vote.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
you
Well,
guys
thank
so
you,
much.
ladies,
Yeah,
so
thank you
much.
Good luck.
Much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Absolutely.
Right. So let's bring in the
I
next.
know you can have a
people.
Stella.
I already had one.
Okay, good. All right. This is my second
that's
one in 2 hours. That's not
Oh,
so
that's
bad.
not bad.
Right? I'm just starting it too. So you guys, thank you so
Yeah,
much
thanks
for
having us.
joining us. Christina is going to usher in the next candidate. So that was you just met Holly Bover and Jill Mathis. They are running for Victor Central School District. And again, with the very similar theme tonight from all of the candidates, mostly parents who are frustrated by the non-responsive nature of their school board, whether it's Webster, Pittsford, Victor, Penfield. The story is the same. It seems as if our school boards, our superintendents, our administrators are copy and pasting. They're getting marching orders from someone, from somewhere. They seem to be dead set on keeping our school closed, keeping our kids masked, keeping these protocols in place. And the question is why? And so the point of the program tonight, the happy hour school board special with myself and Christina, is to introduce you to candidates to do the job, quite frankly, that your local news organization should be doing. News 10 NBC, CBS, NBC, Channel 8, 13 Wham. You know, this is the work rather than posting national stories to fit a propaganda agenda, which is what they do 9 times out of 10, copying, pasting what, their larger news organization is pushing out. I really wish that we had local organizations that would do this type of work, quite frankly. But we're doing it for them, Christina, and we're introducing, because this really is kind of a hot school board session, election season. And
one of the most important in history that I can think of
ever.
Ever.
I've never met
Ever.
so many of my girlfriends are, I mean, they don't think a whole lot about politics. They want to shop and have parties and get their nails done and get their hair done. And they're not really
right. But don't mess with Mama Bear.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like my girlfriends, I'm getting phone calls constantly. Shannon, I want to join your freedom fighters. This is ridiculous. I can't get any answers from my school board members. Like people are, and it's so bizarre. I think the theme that we're seeing, like this very weird, bizarre, like school board, just non-transparent.
Right.
They are non-responsive. They have parents pouring their hearts out at school board meetings over and over and over. Kids who are desperate to get back. And it's like, we just can't penetrate this wall.
Right.
And so this is why there are so many candidates, so many non-union endorsed candidates who are set on fully reopening schools, 5-day, full day K through 12, who want to get the kids out from behind the masks, who are opposed to the radical critical race theory and also the radical sex ed agenda that we're seeing coming out of Washington, D.C. and Albany. All of the candidates that you guys are meeting here tonight in general are embracing that agenda of opposing.
Have our endorsement.
And they have our endorsement. So
we vote for all of you if we lived in every town.
Yes, we would. And so we're going to move on now to our next guest.
Yes. So we have Sandro Balpano and Randy Weaver. They're from the Spencerport School District.
Awesome.
When Sandro announced he was running, I was like, I loved your announcement and just like, it spoke to me. Like you were an angry dad.
Yes.
And you're ready for change. So tell us, like, what made you run? Because you're a busy gentleman. When I read everything, professionally that you have going on in your life and such, why now? Why run for school board?
Because I've seen what it's done to my kids emotionally. I think the mental toll that these school shutdowns and part-time schooling has really taken on our kids. It's just been, it's been terrible. And I don't know, honestly, if you don't have kids, school-age kids in a district, you don't really see it. You don't get to live it on a day-to-day basis. You don't get to see, your kids, the school refusal, the emotional effects the tolls that it takes on them. So,
how old are your kids, Sandro?
So I have a 4th grader and a 6th grader.
So
I have 4th and 6th grader too.
Those are tough.
Yeah, they're tough years, and I mean that's where they're building their social bonds. That's where they're getting their support from the adults. All day long, and honestly, it's been a complete disaster. The remote schooling for my kids. It's been tough to get them to focus on it, and my son, God bless him, he's very bright, and he's been able to kind of keep up. My daughter's just really struggled with it, and what's funny too, when she found out that I was running for the school board, she was like, well, Dad, I don't really want to go back to school 4 days, or I don't want to go back to school 5 days. I kind of like having, the time at home or whatever. And, Spencerport did, finally, after months of intense parental pressure, go back to a 4-day school program, for middle school.
Yes, so they're one of the only in the county.
So she's been back now 4 days, and I asked her, after the first day, she was real nervous about getting back, and I asked her, so what do you think? And I did that every day for the entire week, and at the end of the week, she's like, Dad, you were right. This is a lot better. I get to see a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a long time.
Schedule.
It's more structured.
Kids, they need that routine.
Need routine, and again, if you don't have kids that are school aged, you just don't understand the struggles that families have gone through. I put a poll up recently on a group of Spencerport parents that are advocating for return to school. How many people here have had to have a family member or a income earner quit their job, take a part-time position, cut back on their hours, pay for babysitters or nannies or something along those lines? And it's just amazing. Almost unanimously, for the most part, the parents have said, it's been completely disruptive to our home life,
Right.
you know? And honestly,
It's a travesty.
It
It's
is.
a travesty.
And the only person that responded that said, actually, my position hasn't changed or my situation hasn't changed. She's like, yeah, I've been homeschooling them for 3 years now because I just couldn't take what was going on anymore. So, I mean, like, you know, and I couldn't sit by and watch the board sit on their hands when I know that they have the power to do something about it.
Yes.
You know, that is the one thing. Our board will come out and say, look, we've done everything that we could. No, you haven't. The same rules that have been in effect since August are still in effect for the most part. You know, the recent CDC recommendations that came out, if anything, have tightened up the rules for the school districts. They're not helpful. There was no good faith effort to make it easier. You know, when they put those recommendations out, 97% of the United States of America was still in a red zone. So
77%. Everyone remember that stat.
They still are,
77%
right?
in New York State.
In New York State are
open,
back in school.
Are back in school.
So
full day, 5 day.
So when our school districts say, well, we've done everything that we've could, no, you haven't. You've had the power in your hands since September to make this better. You've just deferred to the Mike Mendozas of the county.
Absolutely.
To the Bellows that refuse to work with the legislator to do the Monroe County legislature to do what needs to be done here, like they did out in Onondaga County in Syracuse.
Right.
You know, I mean, we've had the ability to modify these guidelines, but instead the school is treating the guidelines as if they are law or as if they are regulation.
Right.
And in New York State, there's very specific requirements to make regulation, and these did not go through that. They are guidelines, they are recommendations, they are a best practices document, and if you need to modify them to open schools, then that's what the board should have been doing all along.
Sandra, I'm on a committee for, I mean, you know, we're talking right now about just here in Monroe County getting our kids back to school. It's amazing that we have to fight this hard just to get them in school. But
we live in a special type of hell here in Monroe County. I'm convinced.
It's interesting.
I'm convinced.
And
it's really a bubble.
It is. It's a bizarro bubble.
It is.
But
U of R, Mike Mendoza. We won't go down that path, but
I'm on a
we
committee.
see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm on a committee, though, looking at even masking requirements and social distancing requirements and looking at all the laws and the statutes and the guidelines and the CDC. We're putting all this together to present to the board because we want to advocate for getting rid of the masks. We want our kids out from behind the mask. That's a whole different sociological problem with the kids and psychological problem where they're not seeing, you know, human faces. But what we found is that we're at the point now, there are so many conflicting guidelines, statutes, laws, regulations that it really is pick and choose.
Right.
Pick what you want. All you need are, board members who are going to do everything they can. They're going to look for every loophole, every single way to wiggle out. And you can do it now. And that's what schools have been doing, to your point. You just have to have people who are committed to doing that. And right now, we're talking about school board members who are, I've mentioned on this program tonight, Stepford wives. I mean, they don't, you can't penetrate. Let's go to our other candidate here because we haven't met. Thank you so much. Sandro,
thank you, Sandro.
It's amazing. And this is what we need, this passion for our kids, this passion that I've seen in this room from these school board members tonight is, I mean, it makes me feel like I want to cry that there are so many people willing to do this.
Right.
And to stand up for our kids. It is the Lord's work, and I really appreciate what you're doing. But let's go to Randy Weaver, who is also running alongside Sandro Balpano for Spencerport School District Board of Education. What made you decide to run, my friend?
Sandro, he did. So
Sandro grabbed you and wrestled you down. Hey, that is one of my rules. Rules for resistance: always resist with a friend.
Yeah,
that's right.
You need a sidekick.
You do.
Ride or die, a buddy.
I can't tell you how much it's helped having somebody who sees things the way I do and the way I have. I've run for school board. This will be my 6th time.
Wow.
Yes, I've lost every time.
Oh, not this time.
That's right. So
I'll pull them over to finish line if I have to.
That's right. So I keep trying. I keep fighting. I originally ran the son with special needs, and I wanted to fight for him, and that was back in 2007. And he was entering kindergarten. Now he's first-year student at RIT.
Oh, wow.
Now we're fighting RIT and the Spencerport School Board. But I agree wholeheartedly with what Sandro had to say. I can't say how disappointed I've been in the lack of courage from the school board and from administration at Spencerport. I mean, they're people that I've worked with for years. I know on a personal level, they're nice people, but they are not fighting hard enough. They just aren't fighting. And, I met Sandro and I said, I want to support your candidacy. And he said, well, why don't you run with me? Let's run. Let's do this. So, I found it to be really inspirational. And, as you see, he's got a lot of passion, and it's infected me, I guess.
Yeah,
I feel really charged up about this. And I think what really did it for me was the first night I went out to put signs up around the community. And I had a firefighter's wife come out and just, her heart was broken for her son, a 14-year-old son. She told me how he's so depressed about the situation. He's an athlete, he was a scholar, and now his grades are falling. He sits and mopes, he plays video games all day. She can't motivate him because he's not around his friends.
Right.
She said, Randy, I can't leave my house. I can't leave my house because I'm afraid he's going to do something. And that was the moment for me.
Wow.
When she talked to me, and we talked for maybe a half hour in her front yard. And I said, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm fighting.
So you gentlemen have had a little bit of drama up in Spencerport. I saw you held an event at a local ice cream place this past weekend.
Yes.
What was that all about?
So our board decided to hold their meet the candidate night virtually, basically, and they talked about how they were going to go about running this, and they decided they were going to have community submitted questions through an email, and they were going to ask us all 2 questions round robin style, and sort of under duress, we all kind of agreed to this particular format. But we heard some things through the grapevine that indicated that possibly that this was not going to be a very level playing field.
Yeah, and we're hearing that. And
Dirty pool.
Right.
Yeah.
Dirty pool. Shenaniganized.
Right.
So-
and we're hearing this where the districts are giving their chosen, let's say, candidates the questions ahead of time. They're really making the field uneven. And so I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So, I mean, we had a choice to either go in there and possibly be ambushed with questions that, could be particularly troublesome for one set of candidates versus another set of candidates.
Sure.
It got to be to the point where we were looking at it and it's like, they don't draw a great audience.
No.
I mean, it's a relatively limited number of people that are even looking at this event.
Right.
It's going to be on videotape. It can be edited and cut and manipulated against you. And we said, you know what? I don't want to be in a position where you can be caught in a catch-22 with a certain question. So, I thought about it for a while, and I said, you know what? I'd rather be out in the community.
Yeah.
I'd rather have people come up to me and ask me the questions
Anything
that
they
are
want.
important to them.
They can ask anything they want.
I mean, and we've had a lot of people that are detractors,
Right.
that have posted some and challenged a lot of our positions,
Sure.
And I welcome that,
Sure.
on my own page, I was very open. We've gone back and forth with them, but we wanted an open forum. And so rather than do the districts meet the candidate night, we held our own.
You had a beautiful turnout too. I saw the photos and a great evening.
That's
It looks
amazing.
like, it was really inspiring to see so many parents and children and such come out and really want to have healthy conversation with you guys that
And
wanted to support you.
See, this is the thing. Again, going even back to Common Core days with the controlled meetings, the
Right.
facilitated meetings, the facilitated
Right.
forums. When they so tightly control these type of things, there are shenanigans.
Exactly.
And when you are genuine, when you're not trying to hide anything, when you are truly transparent, you will say exactly what you just said, which is we'll answer any question. Because you have nothing to hide.
No, I
Right.
And this is Christina, it is a theme. Every school board,
Yep.
every district, Monroe County,
Yep.
what are they hiding? Why does everything have to be so controlled? Why do you have to pre-screen all the questions? Why do you have facilitators, controlling all the discussions.
The best event
Right.
I ever went to at Spencerport was, I think it was 2007 or 2009. I can't remember which year. The format was, we went to the middle school cafeteria,
Mhm.
and the students were randomly selected to ask whatever question they wanted.
Oh, I
of
like
us.
that.
Anything
And
they wanted.
Boy, these were tough questions. They were good
Wow.
questions.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Those aren't allowed anymore.
From the mouth
Mhm.
of babes.
The facilitator will pluck those right out of the index card bin,
Yep.
and they'll just throw them right over
That
their
was the
shoulder
last
like
time they
never
did that.
happened.
I think the format changed after that. Every time I went to the candidates forum, it was literally open forum. Anyone could come. Who was in the room?
Right.
The teachers union and their officers. So 3 or 4 people from the
Right.
teachers union, the school board, obviously, and then a handful of administrators and maybe 1 or 2 parents, if that.
Yeah.
And always, this is one of the things I've noticed at the school board meetings, always the contractors and all of the corporations that are pitching the school for this or for that, they always seem to be, up in a corner. You can always spot who they are. And it just shows you that there are moneyed interests who are coming into our schools. They're controlling the conversation. They're dictating the conversation. And we just need to get people in there to be eyes and ears and to ask hard questions.
Yeah, I think if anything, that COVID this year has really opened the eyes of a lot of parents. I went. I'm going to be honest. I went for the last couple of years and was content with my kid's education because he was going off to school every day. He seemed to be learning his stuff.
I think we all were.
Yeah, and I never
We all
really
were.
paid
It's
too
a
much
huge
attention
wake
to
up
it.
call. It was a huge wake up call.
And one of the things that really
Not Shannon.
one of the things that really kind of struck me as odd, way back in September, when you start hearing about districts, and I don't know if Spencerport did it. So to be fair, I don't want to put any blame on them, but districts were being, kind of secretive with their instruction.
Right.
Teachers were asking parents, well, don't look over your kid's shoulder during the middle of the class.
Right.
Why not? I mean, what are you teaching that you don't want the parents to know about?
Right.
These are our kids.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing that should be going on during their Zoom sessions that ought to be secret from a parent. So if I want to look over their shoulder and I see something that's not going on, I'm not going to start disrupting the class, but
You're going to ask questions.
Exactly. There's going to be an email follow-up afterwards.
Absolutely.
So, and it's things like that really started opening my eyes. It's like, well, what's going on in our schools here
Right.
that has to be done in secret?
Yeah.
And I think a hostility with parents. Why is there this hostility?
Right.
with
These are
parents?
our children.
Right.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Why are you so mad at us for asking questions?
Yeah, and
Right.
and really the thing that really opened my eyes, these parental rights, we've kind of given them up over the years
Yes.
and not really thought twice about them. And shame on all of us for letting that situation happen.
Right.
And now trying to claw those rights back, one right at a time. It's like once you give the government the ability to make a decision for you, getting it back is extraordinarily difficult.
Absolutely.
So important though. And if we win the schools, then I think the other things will fall in place.
I
think
do.
it's huge. So thank
I
you
do
guys.
too.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
both so
Well,
much.
thank you.
Where will
Thank you.
people need to vote on May 18th in Spencerport?
At the district office, 71 Lyle Avenue in Spencerport. And the hours are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Great.
Well,
Well,
and everyone who's listening, in Spencerport, we have 3 more days till the election. So I'm sure you guys could use help. You could use boots on the ground. There are
Yes.
phone calls to be made and doors to be knocked on. And so if you are in Spencerport, please share this out to all of your friends and family. Volunteer to help these 2 candidates. They, I believe, will truly be representative voices for parents. I do believe that you'll ask the hard questions and you'll do the appropriate digging to figure out what the heck is going on
yeah,
in
absolutely.
some of our school districts. And so good luck to you guys.
Thank you
Yes.
very
Thank
much.
you
We
both
could vote
so
for
much.
you. We would.
Yes. Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Really,
you.
it's been a great forum. Thank you.
You guys are great. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So
So I'm going to bring in Churchville, Chiley, and Fairport together because we're running.
we're running a
Short
little
of
bit
time.
late. Let's see where
We're
we're
running
at.
behind
7:50,
today.
a little bit behind.
So
Thank
I'm
you,
going to
guys.
bring in Churchville, Chiley, and Spencerport.
Thank you guys so much. Okay. Yeah, that's great. And we'll put them on. We could maybe go a little bit later. I know we said we wouldn't. Do you want to go 10 minutes past? I feel bad. I don't want to short shrift them. You know what I mean? They've been waiting for so long.
Okay, so let's just run with Churchville, Chiley.
We'll do 10 and 10. So here we are. We're doing this on the fly, guys. So we have Ashley Caselli and Alicia Nagel from the Churchville Chili School District. And then we're going to bring in Nate Brown and Stacy Shell from the Fairport School District, and Christina. I'm sorry. I just feel bad. I want to give them each the appropriate. Hi, girls. And you've been waiting you were the first one here. You're Ashley. Okay. So Ashley was I hope it was fun in there. A lot of school board candidates, right?
It is like
hour.
They sound like they're having so much fun. It's so much cooler out there too.
Is it like my hair is
it's
enormous
like 30
ball,
degrees cooler
and
out
I've
in the
been
hall.
sweating all day. But that's okay.
Improvements coming to we
Yes.
the people.
Yes.
Air conditioning in the studio.
Okay, so we now have, again, Ashley Caselli and Alicia Nagel from Churchville Chili School District. Girls, thank you so much.
Thank you
for
having
coming
us.
in here, and thank you for running. We've had a long day, and we are endorsing all the candidates that you guys are meeting tonight.
Yeah.
We are aware of your general platforms. It's basically open the schools.
Yes.
Let's get the kids out from behind the masks. Let's get them back to school 5-day, full day. Let's take a look at this critical race theory and maybe do it in a different way. And hell no to the radical sex ed. And that's really the issues that we've been focused on.
Right. And worth mentioning, Alicia is actually Slajna Mitris, a big supporter of Rock for Educational Freedom. She sent me a message, and George and Slajna just have such wonderful things to say
very cool.
about her running for board. So I want to
love
mention that because I know the Mitrises have been big supporters.
We love our girl Slajna.
Of getting the schools open again. So I'm sure that the story is the same as most parents who've been in here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what made you ladies want to run, and tell us a little bit about kind of what you're up against and what things are looking like in Churchville Chili. I know that's a smaller school district compared to some of the other districts that have been in here tonight. But I know that a lot of the same challenges exist. So, Ashley, tell us a little bit about, kind of why you're here.
Well, I'm a mama bear who cried all 30 weeks. Oh, sorry, you scared me.
It's okay.
I'm a mama bear who cried all 30 weeks this
There's
past
been a
year
lot of tears
with my daughter, and I only have one. I can't imagine, like Alicia has 2 in school right now, and I know there's others who have more than that.
Right.
And I've had enough. Her mental state is not there. As an 8-year-old, when you see your daughter like gripping into her arm or like wanting to harm herself, just even like that little bit, like that's not good at 8 years old.
I know.
So she needs to be around kids. She needs to be around people. She needs to be in school. Her education depends on it. And I said, I've had enough. So
did you make your voice heard to the, one of the themes that we're hearing, parents bringing their concerns to the board, providing the board with information about reopening, giving the board an opportunity to pursue reopening and not hearing back from the board. Did you have that same experience?
Always the blanket answers, we're held to the guidelines. We're held to the guidelines. We even Audrey had a runny nose, and the art teacher freaked out, even though her classroom teacher saw her that day and was fine with her. Her art teacher came into the classroom because they didn't leave their classrooms and sent her to the nurse, which sent her home. And then it became the whole, well, you have to test them in order for her to return to school. I'm like, she's a healthy child.
I know.
And there's no reason to test a healthy
right.
child.
And we've talked a lot about this, right? Like on your program and on my social media platforms and such, that it's really creating like a distrust even between children and their physicians or children and their parents, because they're like, I'm not sick. Like, I don't understand why I need this test. Well, why can't I go to school?
And you don't want to take your kid in for the test or to the doctor.
Right.
Because then if it's a false God forbid they get a false positive, which we know large percentage of positives are false positives. And so then you're down that rabbit hole. You are Alice in Wonderland, you're in the rabbit hole, and then you're 14 days quarantine, and it's just never ending.
And we hear these children too that are like, they're petrified to go get the test because then they know that they're going to get blamed for why like their parents can't go to work and their friends are home from school. And just, we're hearing all of this, and it's just,
into our lives.
it's disgusting. It's disgusting. The stories of children needing to go get these tests. But anyways, we get back on topic.
Well, let's go to Alicia and find, what was your experience?
I spent, the last year talking to friends and family constantly and was obsessed with the fact that my kids were not back to school and just really wondering why, seeing everything else open up slowly, not right away, but slowly.
Bars, restaurants,
liquor stores have been open all
so
along.
just thinking, which I'm happy for. Like, I'm happy for those things, but why was school never flipped to be considered essential?
Right.
And I felt like I can't keep talking about this. I'm not actually acting, and I need to act, and I need to do something, and I need to be able to say that I did everything that I could. So that's the gist of it.
Right.
Thank you guys.
And I think that you and I can relate to this, Shannon, and a lot of what we do every day and why we're screaming from the rooftops. It's for our children because we want to leave them with a community, a world that we're proud of, that they're going to be able to raise our grandbabies and great grandbabies in someday. And right now we are really fighting to hold on to that control, to respect our Constitution, to have a community that is safe and conducive for learning and for, raising these babies. Right. And it's just, I'm just so happy to see so many parents like yourselves who, it's like the final straw.
Yeah.
Right. Like, well, and I think it's now or never.
Yeah. It's a process too. I mean, I've been in politics for many, many years, but I never really got into the local organization. And it's scary to do that because you might run into your neighbor at the grocery store. You might run into your friends. You might lose friends. And I did. I've lost so many friends.
You've lost friends?
I've lost so many friends. But you know what? I do believe at some point I'm going to get some of them back. And I also, the benefit was that I've made a lot of really amazing friends. Like Christina, you and I would never have known each other just really like the strongest bonds.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us feel that. And because this has been such a highly emotional and troubling and tumultuous.
We're creating
and
our
devastating
community.
year. Yeah. And it brings out the best in people. And I think that's what we're seeing with these elections. Girls, how's it been so far? Do you feel optimistic about
what's the deal in Churchill Chili?
Can't even see you.
Give us the gossip.
It was, it's interesting. We're watching everything kind of transpire on social media and talking with some of the other candidates tonight. I don't think things are as tumultuous in Churchville, which I'm extremely thankful for. I do feel like we have, a strong undercurrent of support. People are not as vocal though. I think that could work for or against us.
Right. Yeah. We went to candidate night. We both spoke. And then the following day, I'm driving through Spencer Forks. We're on the west side. And I text her, I go, oh my gosh, there's yard signs everywhere. We don't there's nothing like that in Churchville Chili. I'm like, we need yard signs. We need to get on this. Yeah. So our campaign has been kind of a little bit later to the game, but everything's been through social media and we're present at the board meetings. We continue to vocalize how we feel post meetings and going on from there because I just want the face. I just want to sit in the room and have them know I'm there and I'm listening and just that.
So your current board, have they been very receptive or is it much of the same old? Is it
same old?
Same old.
I think I had my first email and communication with the board was back in October when I realized kids were not going back to school the second quarter. I got a lengthy email back. I felt like it was a good response, very respectful, but in the end, nothing changed. And I didn't see the advocacy that I was hoping for. And we certainly didn't have the transparency in what was being done in the communication until January, February timeframe. So I don't know that they're not responsive. I'm not sitting on the board. I hope that whatever story or conclusions that we have all come to are wrong.
Right.
But if you're not transparent and you don't communicate, you let us to just
we imagine the worst.
Right.
Exactly. The worst. No, I agree. And that's again the theme, not no transparency.
Right.
Secret backroom meetings.
Right.
It's as if they do the board meetings for show.
Right. Well, and
all the decisions are made somewhere else and then they
I just would have hoped for allow us to work as a group. That was my other thing.
Right.
there were so many parents and students that wanted to be back in school. Like if you had a unified front, what are our challenges, and let's fight them together.
Yeah. And I hope that, existing Board of Education members and superintendents are watching this tonight. We know that they are, some of them, but I hope that they're listening to this and they're hearing the frustration, regardless of how these elections turn out on May 18th. They need to communicate with the parents. They need to be more transparent. They need to be held accountable, and they need to understand that this is this is a responsibility, right? Like this is a big responsibility, and we're depending on them as parents and taxpayers to get the job done and to put the kids first. And I think that they need to know, and I'm sure that they see me in their sleep at this point, that we aren't going anywhere.
Well, no,
we're going
Regardless of
anywhere.
what happens, I think that all of us can agree. I mean, the passion and the emotion that I've heard in this room tonight from really every candidate. I mean, this is personal. It is. I know. I've already said I'm going to be at every. I don't care what happens.
You can mess with me, but once you mess with my kids,
No,
it's like
it's
a whole
over.
other level.
All right, girls. All right. So we are talking to Ashley Caselli and Alicia Nagel, Churchville Chi School District. And so if you guys are watching, share this with everyone you know. Join them, follow their campaigns, help them out. You can call for them. And where is the election?
Yes, where do they vote in Churchville Chi?
Middle school, Gym C. I think it's door 35.
Door 35.
Okay. Girls,
Awesome.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Good luck to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, Nate Brown and Stacy Shell. This is Fairport.
We're going to have to see if Stacy's here. I think she may be calling in. I have to check.
Okay. Poor thing. She's supposed to be date night with her husband. And I know she really wanted to come, and we had to schedule them later. We had a lot of candidates in here tonight. I want to thank you guys all for watching. Make sure that you share this out to everyone that you know. We've had really great response tonight on the program, and we can reach a lot more people. We have 3 days till the school board elections, and I think it would benefit everyone to be able to meet these candidates and hear about what we're hearing, really just this thread, this theme. Poor Stacy, yesterday she was supposed to speak at our education event in Penfield, and she had a work emergency, so she had to leave. And then tonight she was a grease fire. Oh my gosh. And then tonight she was here.
Her family surprised her husband with a surprise birthday party.
Oh,
and she got
my
pulled
goodness.
into that.
Oh my goodness. So
So,
she couldn't come tonight.
Series of unfortunate events.
Well, that's okay.
It's
I'm
all
sure
right.
Nate, you're gonna represent. Fairport's been nice.
Fairport's been fun. It's been fun.
And we have Dr. Baker back in here with
Hello,
us.
Dr.
and-
Baker.
Awesome. So Nate has been one of like our OGs from day one on Rock for Educational Freedom. I think he was one of the first males, or one of the first females to even join the group. The backstory, which I think you know, is it was Rock Moms for Educational Freedom. Because I was really, it was.
Oh,
I was
was it?
originally, I was just looking for a few moms to like commiserate with as I was doing like emergency learning, and I had a couple of males come to me and like, "Hey, us dads don't like this either. You know, like we're
Right.
missing work too. Like we're having to like try to pull teeth and get these kids into their seats for Zoom meetings."
It was funny. This is a funny story. It was the third protest rally that we did on Empire Boulevard in Webster. When Christina came up to me and said, "I have to tell you about this group that I started. My name's Christina. It's Rock for Educational Freedom. We have like 500 members, right? And you started it in like 3 days that you had like 500
exploded.
members." And I'm like,
We're still
"Heck yeah,
getting-
girl, let's go." And
Yeah.
so, 5,000 members later, but Nate, you were one of the originals,
right?
And you are running along with Stacy Shell for school board
Yes.
in Fairport, which has been a particularly divisive and kind of a little bit like Webster, where it's pretty intense and the factions are pretty intense.
Oh, they're forming and they're intense. There's two factions. There's the handful of people on Facebook and the rest of the town. And it's basically split like that. If in Facebook, social media in general is just a disaster because everyone gets on there. They'll say whatever they want from behind a keyboard that they would never say to your face.
Right.
Not in a million years. And that's kind of where we are. So we've been doing most of our campaigning grassroots, going door to door, meeting with people, having private rallies, private meet and greets. And those have been overwhelmingly positive. We have teachers who are saying, "Thank you for running." I was at a park yesterday. We were doing an interview for Channel 8. And a woman overheard what we were talking about, and she came up to me. And by the time I was done talking to her, she was crying and giving me a hug and saying, "Thank God people like you are running."
Yeah.
And this is what we've heard. The emotions, these school board members just do not understand how devastating this
A little
has been.
compassion goes a long way, I think,
Yes.
is what we're hearing tonight. You know, just
Absolutely.
seeing that someone that represents your family and your children cares, you know, like we talked about, even with the mask on, you can see in people's eyes when they're sincere, or you can tell that they're bothered or they're connecting with you.
Right.
And I think that, you know, it's evident that we need these types of people on the board so that parents like, you know, you and I, Dr. Baker, we can feel like somebody is there representing our children and our best interests.
Absolutely. And I've got 4 kids, so I've got a lot of stake in this
Yes,
game.
you do. You do. Your baby, she's just the sweetest.
Oh, yeah.
I
Our
love her
little JoJo's.
pictures. Yeah.
Well, so Nate has been really great, especially on critical race theory, a really eloquent opponent of that divisive new curriculum. And, you know, most candidates tonight, I mean, we've discussed this, you know, step number 1 is getting the schools open. That's step number
Absolutely.
one.
100%.
Bodies in the building.
Bodies in the building.
Absolutely.
But number 2, I mean, we got to get the masks off of their faces. I mean, that is, to me, I think that there is an enormous, a mountain of evidence that shows that these kids do not need to be masked.
Right.
And the
Well, in the I'm sorry, but the you know, the messaging even from the top, although it's very, how shall I say it, very, I think partly disingenuous and I think partly kind of underhanded what, say, the CDC and so on are doing, it's still going in the right direction.
Right.
You know, when people are saying, you know, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask indoors, that really pulls the whole, I mean, that came out 2 days after our board meeting where they stopped it for 15 minutes because we weren't wearing masks when we were socially distanced. So
Well,
how stupid does the Board of Education and Mike Pirro in Pittsford look when 48 hours the CDC says what we were saying right there?
Well,
and he was going to call the cops on us. So
Right.
I think that the
Well,
messaging,
they did call the cops in Webster.
they
Yeah,
did in
I saw
Webster,
that.
right?
Yeah.
That
So,
was
you know, I
nuts.
think just to finish my point, I think that it's really important to keep in mind that the messaging, even at the macro level, at the national level, is showing these people up to be in the wrong.
absolutely.
And they look more and more foolish every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, saying that we need the schools open, we need the masks off the children, we need to stop traumatizing these kids it's becoming more and more obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Nate, can you tell us about, and I agree with you 100%, Dr. Baker, can you tell us about what's going on with the unions, what happened today? I mean, again, talk about
Sure,
shenanigans. And I mean, this is what they are. There must be a memo that went out to all of the unions across Monroe County that I don't know if they're afraid of our candidates, if
I can read it.
they're-
I have it.
if they're
Yeah.
looking at some internal polling that we're not privy to, or if they are more concerned about the budget. I'm not really sure what's going on, but
I think it's a combination
they're,
of both.
I mean, it is. They're throwing everything but the kitchen sink. Go ahead, Nate.
So this was sent out today. A teacher in Fairport. I don't know their name, and even if I did, I wouldn't put it out there because the teachers who are supportive of me and Stacy are afraid to speak up because
Crazy.
the machine
And
would
it's a
just put
trend.
them down. It is
Yeah.
a growing trend, and I've
It
had
is.
many teachers come up to me and thank me.
Yep.
So, anyways, here's the letter. It says, "Dear FEA," which stands for Fairport Educators Association or the union. Says the school board election is truly one that causes angst and worry. It requires a concerted effort and strategy. We must be serious and active in our effort for our students, the district, and for our careers. Thus, Mike Malaber, Don Young, and I are hosting 15-minute building meetings on May 14th. Please join us. Times follow. This is where it gets interesting. You may not use district computers for the meeting. This is a political effort. You may use your own device or phone. You will receive an invite to your Google Meet at the email address you have given to the FEA, and then below it has the times.
Wow. So that's in violation of the Fairport guidelines. You're not allowed to politic on school grounds. You're not allowed to use school
And this was during
property.
school hours and on school property.
Right.
So this was the teachers union essentially trying to turn out all of their teachers in an emergency meeting. Why they can't be on district devices is interesting. I guess we can only.
No trace of it, probably.
Yeah, they're hiding.
Exactly.
They're going to break the rules, but they're going to hide the fact that
That's
they're breaking
so
the rules.
wrong.
Right.
That explains that right there.
here's the interesting thing. Even if, let's say, all of what they're doing is by the book and they technically can do it, what does that say where they're working this hard in a local school board election to keep 2 average parents off the board?
It's scary.
Well,
Like,
that's
just
on
that
top
fact
of
alone is weird.
Well,
It's
and that's
scary.
on top of the vicious attacks on both Nate and Stacy, the ex-superintendent Bill Calla, who I really
Accused me of
loved.
McCarthyism. I thought that was cute.
Came out and in the first time ever, we don't see ex-superintendents endorsing candidates, endorse the 2 union-backed candidates, and went as far as to call Nate and Stacy, hateful, and it was a really, a stunning Facebook post that he put out that attacked both, Nate and Stacy. They've been attacked by Black in the Burbs, Tiffany Porter's group, called racists, bigots, haters, every name in the book.
Well, we're all racists in this
and
room.
well, yeah, exactly.
That's
Just
what
put
critical race
that
theory
out.
teaches.
And
Yeah.
we've had issues with Damon Buffum, the
Showing
school
up
board
at
member,
Stacy's home.
and not just Stacy, but accosting people in Wegmans. Nate, and then what was the story on that? Like going up and reaming people out for supporting these candidates and calling them and it's just was very strange.
The one
election.
story that got me, and I'm surprised it hasn't gotten more attention, was the Twitter post under a Fairport school district tag. Like, it was Buffum, and then it was clear by the profile that it was a Fairport-based school board profile. And he doesn't like Trump. That's fine. I don't mind that. He can hate Trump all he wants. That's your American right to not like who's in office. But he posted a picture of a cartoon of a man peeing into a fan.
We talked
and
about this.
you could see very clearly cartoon drawing of genitalia.
The junk.
And
the
so,
junk was.
Again, I don't care if he doesn't like Trump. I respect that. I don't respect you using a handle that is associated with a school that my children go to and putting a penis on it.
No, and he went after evangelicals. He went after conservatives. He went after borderline pornographic, and this, and
offensive to females.
Offensive, and so he's one of those, and it's just been a particularly vicious race. But I think
I never thought it would be.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think that you have unions calling emergency meetings on school grounds on a Friday.
Unless they're scared.
Unless there's something going on there.
Yeah.
Unless they're seeing something that is making them nervous. And that's good news. That means there's some momentum there.
Yeah, at the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and even seeing the opposition that we had last night outside of Freedom United, that's unheard of. We know that we're striking a nerve. We know
14 white social justice warriors protesting for BLM.
Yeah.
Yelling white supremacists through a bullhorn.
Yeah.
Our meeting.
And they made sure as I was walking in,
Did
and
they
they
yell
called
that at
me.
the black people in there too?
Yeah, right. They made sure, when I got on my card is there's that white supremacist. But I thought was interesting was that when they were all talking with each other, they're like, there's people in that building that are running for our schools. And they were really upset by this idea that there were people in that building
running for school
were running for school board that wanted our kids just to have a normal education. It was like mind blowing to them.
Well, and they've come out amazingly. BLM, Black in the Burbs, they have come out. They've been one of the strongest opposers of
school
opening up our
reopening
schools. And so it's quite telling. And then you wonder about it goes back to this theme all throughout tonight's program of what is going on.
Right.
Like, why would Black advocacy groups who are interested in the plight of people of color, especially in an urban situation, knowing that our kids in the Rochester City School District and in these poverty-stricken urban areas are suffering the most.
Right.
The most.
Right.
And yet their eyes are trained on the suburbs. We should all be coming. We should get our schools open, and we should be doing everything in our power to get Rochester schools
Absolutely.
open.
Absolutely.
What should be happening?
Those kids need
Right.
their education. Absolutely.
Well, and schools serve as a safe space for them for mentorship guidance that they may not be getting at home.
Right.
For warm meals every day, for a
Crazy.
safe place to be, you know, so that they're not getting involved with drugs or violence or activities that are, you know, not conducive to being good citizens someday. And it's just, that's been a main focus of ours, even in Rock for Educational Freedom is, you know, we talk so much about the suburbs. Well, you know, we need to also think about, you know, these city school children, they don't even have a safe or conducive environment at home to even be able to learn if they even have an internet connection.
Yeah. We need organizers in the city school.
Definitely.
Well, I would just say that back in last June and July, when we put out our open letter with 24 physicians who said back then we got to get the schools open, and it's still out there online.
It's wild.
And we said at the time, we said that this is going to be worse for kids of lower socioeconomic status. Absolutely 100% worse.
Right.
And it's absolutely true. And I went to a couple of they were online, of course, at the time, a couple of the sort of advocacy meetings that were built around the city school districts. I met one of the deputy superintendents of the city school district online at that time. And I gave them my email and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, you know, I didn't hear from anybody. And we need to continue to make efforts, but we've made efforts. I've made efforts, and my fellow physician who helped me write that letter that 24 physicians signed, we went to every district in this, including and especially the city school district, and right from the start. And I would argue, to your point, Shannon, why don't they, if they're advocating for children of color, if they're advocating for kids of lower socioeconomic status, why are they doing what they're doing? They don't care. They don't care. It's a power play, and the kids are being held hostage. And unfortunately, those kids are being held hostage that much worse because they don't have the advocacy that our kids have. The kids are being held hostage. That's absolutely what's happening. And the kids that have the least advocacy are being abused the worst.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to Nate and give you an opportunity just to talk to all of your constituents. Hour 2.5.
Too much of this right there.
This is my second one. Just two Stellas.
You're a lightweight.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I mean, it is like 100 degrees.
It is warm. Yeah, it is warm in here.
It's so hot. I started sweating the second we got in here and the lights went on. I started sweating. I'm like, oh, this is going to be quite a night.
It's funny. The air conditioning's in the other room.
That's
I
so
know.
wrong. That
Feels
is so
good out
unfair.
there.
All right. Well, go ahead, Nate. Tell everyone about your platform and what you need for them to do in the next couple days.
Besides voting on May 18th, talking to your neighbors, talking to people in your community, we have people going around putting up door hangers. I still have a few more if you want them. I have a very simple platform. Get this kids back in school full time and keep the politics out of the classroom. You mentioned critical race theory, and they're pushing back hard on this right now. You have the board, they're saying we don't teach critical race theory. Let me tell you right now, that's actually technically true. Nobody teaches critical race theory. It is not taught in any school. It is not a curriculum. You will never walk into a classroom and have on the whiteboard, today we're talking about critical race theory. It is an analytical tool. Kara Finnegan, you might know her from the U of R. She published a journal a few years ago with some other people. It was an educational institution out of Colorado, and it deals with public education. And there are certain quotes like, we draw from, we rely on, we utilize critical race theory when it comes to public education. And these are direct quotes from that journal. It is a lens.
Right.
One of the candidates in Fairport.
It's the way that you look at the
one of the candidates in Fairport, they saying this isn't in our schools. And yet one of the other candidates running in Fairport says from her own page, it is best practice. So tell me how that is not going to be interjected into our schools. The kids are already reading Ibram Kendi, who says if you want to be anti-racist, you must reject capitalism. And the principles of critical race theory teach that white people are incapable of righteous action on race. You can read the book from Richard Delgado. It's called Critical Race Theory. That is the second core principle. I do not want my kid being taught that they are incapable of doing the right thing. You're judging an entire group of people off of a theory which is rebranded from Karl Marx's critical theory. But Now that the middle class, we were talking about this earlier, now that the middle class is getting up there and being successful, they needed to find a new target.
Right.
And with all the racial division happening in this country, they seized it. And now they're trying to inject it into the schools, and it's not appropriate. And it's being injected by a group in Fairport, the Pathstone curriculum, who are, by the way, lobbying our town board to build low-income housing. Now, I don't care that they're doing that, but tell me there's not a connection there.
Oh, that's
Right.
Pittsford.
And that's going on in Pittsford
that's
big
Pittsford,
time.
Webster, Pathstone Foundation.
Yep.
They're basically slumlords. It's a $90 million corporation, nonprofit, right? $90 million. They are subsidized primarily by the federal, I mean, you name it, Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, Education Department, huge amount of federal funding for this organization. And they build low-income housing. And the problem in the suburbs right now is that we have zoning.
Right.
And we are zoned for residential, we're zoned for commercial. And at least in Fairport right now, we have an enormous amount of low-income housing, and it's empty. It's not
They
empty,
just
but it's
renovated
not
a bunch
full.
of them.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not full. There's a large amount, but they want their housing development. So Pathstone Corporation set up Pathstone Foundation a couple years ago, and they hired Sean Wiegand, who was the third grade teacher that everyone thought he just did this on his own time. He just woke up one morning. He has 3 kids. He's a full-time job, and just woke up one morning and decided he wanted to write a critical race curriculum.
Right.
No, he's been paid to do that.
How do I get paid for what I'm doing?
He's
I know, right?
exactly. And he's also been paid to go from Pittsford to Fairport to Penfield to lobby your mayor, your town board, your village board to change the zoning laws.
Some
And
pretty
that-
explosive meetings at the local town level.
And so the other area, they propagandize the parents to the children. That's the point. That's why Pathstone does this. That's why they put in, it's so cynical.
Right.
It's so gross. And all it does is divide the community. And it really is for an outside organization just to make a boatload of money.
Right.
And that's, I mean, big medicine, big data, big tech.
Yep.
Big, slumlord corporations. I mean, this is it. Like our kids are a commodity.
Right.
Education is not about kids. It is about the money. And I think that we're seeing that throughout Monroe. For whatever reason, it's bad here in Monroe County. That's why we have to root it out.
Yes.
We can root it out here with all of the candidates that you guys met tonight. This is hard work. I mean, you all know this is an enormous amount of work.
Yes, it's been very time consuming, and you actually kind of raised an interesting thing about rooting things out. I've been talking to some of the other candidates. If you look at the school board elections that are happening all across Monroe County, let's just fantasize for a moment that every last person who is running against the norm wins. Let's just pretend for a second that they do. They would still not have a majority opinion on any school board. If Stacy and I win, we're 2 and there's 5.
Yep.
So we technically would have 0 power in voting. We would say, we don't like that idea. No. Well, there's 5 yeses. So done. Right. They are not afraid of any of these candidates' power in the slightest. They could not care less about our power because we have none. They are afraid of the voice and what people would find.
Right.
Transparency.
And as you mentioned last week when you and I did our little happy hour together, that this is going to take years to correct.
At least 2.
Yeah. But I think to Nate's point though, what you're saying right now is scrutiny and sunlight.
Absolutely.
Right. That's
100%.
that's what one candidate.
Right.
Like
it's like cockroaches.
Right. And
when you put the light on them
and you ask those probing questions, you ask the questions that they can't answer.
Right.
That they're uncomfortable answering.
Right.
And that's where one school board member can flip the whole narrative.
Absolutely.
Because all of a sudden they're exposed.
Right. And you build this momentum and this excitement too with the taxpayers and the parents and such.
The taxpayers would suddenly feel represented.
Exactly.
Frankly.
Exactly.
They'll
And they would
never
feel
go
more
back.
they'd feel more empowered to get involved.
Right. They'll never go back. And
It would be an altering moment.
I think if you want to know why you're getting called these horrible names that are basically psychological projection.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you've got somebody saying you can't do the right thing because of your skin color. That's a fundamentally just disgustingly racist statement.
It is. Absolutely. Imagine that.
And how does someone who is completely intellectually dishonest rectify that in their own mind? By projection. They look at the person they don't agree with and they say, no, you're the racist.
Right.
And that's exactly, it's a very primitive defense mechanism. It's one of the most primitive of defense mechanisms, but it's the mechanism
You're
of
a
these
poopy
people.
head. No, you're a poopy
Right.
head.
I know you are, but what am I?
Exactly.
Right. That's what it is.
And
Third grade.
Ibram Kendi even gets into that because according to Ibram Kendi, if you deny being a racist, that makes you more of a racist.
Right.
So you either accept that you're racist or deny it and become twice as racist.
Which is, I don't know.
It's a no-win situation.
I don't know what that is psychologically. That's double secret projection. I don't know what it is.
And they're reading Ibram Kendi in Fairport.
Right. Yeah. No, it's the simple thing to say is this is clearly politics.
Yes.
And we are not supposed
absolutely.
to have politics taught, polemical teaching in public schools.
Right.
Period. Period.
Right.
End of story.
Absolutely.
This is politics.
It is.
Get it out of the schools. Whether you agree with it or whether you disagree with it, it doesn't belong in the school.
Right. If you want to teach it at home, knock yourself out. But the kids, they go there, they're sitting in their classrooms. They are trying to learn basic math, basic history. They want to talk about their favorite YouTube channel, their favorite video game. As you get older, your favorite movie, your favorite. They don't care about this stuff by default. As they get older, what you're seeing is programmed responses.
Right.
Rooted in critical race theory. These are programmed responses, and you even have in Fairport, they're being taught to be activists. That's baked into their curriculum. And you have students admitting that they're being taught to be activists.
Like Shannon and I activists, or no, I'm kidding.
No,
You did that on your
You
own.
can't be this kind of activist.
Yeah.
You did that on your
I
own.
talk to kids
Yeah.
all the time. I talk to my kids' friends, and they know they can't speak up about what they really think.
Right.
Ever.
No.
Ever. They
If
know
you're
that
conservative, you have to be quiet.
they cannot ask questions. And that is a hostile environment, in my opinion. That's an abusive environment where a kid doesn't feel safe. They know that if their parent is a police officer, they know that if their parent is an evangelical or a conservative or, God forbid, voted for Trump, they know that every time they walk into that building, it is a hostile environment.
Yeah.
That
My daughter
they are
experienced
going to
that.
battle. And it's it's funny how resilient kids are, because they take that on and they internalize it and then they survive.
Right.
But it's still not right.
But you know what happens is this is what's happened in a bigger picture beyond the developers making money and even the teachers union. This is you mentioned Marx. This is classic totalitarian behavior.
Right.
Because what you do is, for example, you make people do stupid things that everybody knows are stupid.
Right. But it's an
force-
evidence of submission.
It
right.
is,
Yes.
exactly. And that's what, and you take the resistance out of people, you take the critical thinking
will.
out of people, you take the will out of people. If I can just keep my head down, Solzhenitsyn called it the slow-moving cagey prisoner.
Yeah.
And that's what you learn to be in that setting. You learn to be a slow-moving, cagey prisoner. It's right out of One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what those resilient kids are being taught. They're learning how to live in a hostile environment. But what they're being conditioned to do is not to stand up and speak,
Right.
not to say the truth, because you're going to get in trouble. You're taught to move to a different author, love Big Brother. And that's a huge part of this. So when you guys go to a private gathering on a private property and you have these fools standing there calling you all manner of horrible things, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to beat the individuality and the resistance out of you.
You know what was so brilliant about last night? And these are topics that I've talked about for quite some time. I remember saying about the masks, like you might as well wear a pinwheel on top of your head and spin it around. That's going to protect you just as much as a cloth mask.
Right.
Right. Why are we doing this? I had a real problem with doing stupid things. I have a real problem with doing stupid things to your point. But what was so inspiring about last night was that we had 200 people in a room.
Yeah.
And this was not a rally. This is not a protest. These were organizers. These were people who were ready to put in the time, who were ready to go in and build something and organize in their community. And in that room, we had 200 people. Outside of the room, we had 14 lunatics with signs screaming and bullhorns.
And asking for money, by the way.
And, you know,
Yeah, they
I'm
wanted
thinking to
money.
myself, who do you think is going to win this in 24 months?
Right.
Those 14 people or the 200 inside. And what I loved about the 200 inside is that for the first time, you know, everyone came up to me, Shannon, there's BLMs outside. BLMs, all my, you know, and I'm like, who cares?
Right. Yeah.
Why are we afraid of them? They're vile, they're hateful, they're crazy.
Well, I mean, maybe because they
call
would have like,
names.
you know, burned down our cars. No, I'm kidding.
But, you know, so I'm talking
I
to
mean,
the
maybe just
organizer.
that.
insurance-
we worried they were gonna like destroy our
Insurance
property.
would get me a new car.
Right,
I'm fine
yeah.
with that.
But then when I talked to the waitresses and the managers at the location that we were at, and they were
Right.
a little bit, and I'm like, don't worry about it. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. They're 14.
Right.
And we had a lovely event.
Yeah, it was great.
And
It was
they
beautiful.
Sat outside and looked like fools for 2 hours.
Yep.
And no one cared.
Yep.
Mhm.
No one cared. We did what we
No.
needed to do, and we weren't afraid of them.
Right.
And that's everything.
I think my
Like-
wife smiled and waved as she went by.
Standing up to the bullies.
Whatever.
They're not nearly as powerful as
Yeah.
we give them credit for.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they isolate. And that's where they used to isolate by groups, but with COVID-19, they really were able to get down to the granular level in terms of isolation,
Mhm.
family units and individuals. And
Yeah,
so
definitely.
but
So Nate, tell us, you know, where should people in Fairport go to vote for you on
Sure.
May 18th?
So on May 18th, it's at the Joanna Perrin Middle School, and it'll be in the gymnasium. The polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 9 p.m. And it's actually kind of going to be fun for me because I went to Fairport and JP was my school.
Awesome.
So it'll be my old stomping grounds.
oh my goodness, you have to give me a stack of door hangers. I'll go
Oh, yeah.
over there.
Yes.
I'll
Yeah.
irritate
Yes.
everyone.
I might stop by my dad's for lunch. I grew up right in the village. I walked to JP my entire middle school career.
Awesome.
It'll be interesting
Awesome.
to see what happens. Nate, thank you so much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks
And
for having me.
Stacey
This was a
Shell as
blast.
well. Let's make sure we get
Yes, yes.
Stacey.
Yes,
Stacey Shell, she's
Stacey.
the other
A
one.
big shout out. Poor thing has had a really crazy couple days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's been attacked pretty viciously.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, you know, but
Yeah.
she's persevering, she's staying strong, and she's fighting
Yeah.
all the way to the end.
And I hear that she's just been such an active community member involved in Fairport and the schools and just
Member of the PTA. She was she
yeah,
worked in the
works
school
in the school
cafeterias.
cafeteria.
She works at the baseball field. She
Right.
contributes a
Parent,
lot
like
to the
she
community.
is right.
Yeah.
Rolled her sleeves up, gotten her hands dirty, knows the school district, but also as a parent knows what she wants for her children. And I
Absolutely.
think it's incredible to see someone like that running.
Yes. Yeah. And
You want parents on that school board. It's a voice that's really not there right now.
Yeah.
And that's what she was
exactly.
saying about, you know, Stacey has been very adamant about this fact that, you know, the Fairport School Board, you know, there are a lot of members that have grandkids that are in, you know,
Mhm.
the school district, or they
Mhm.
did have kids in the school district, but, you know, most of the school board members don't even have kids
I know.
in school.
I know.
And so, you know, that was something that Stacey has really pointed out. But thank you so much.
Thank
Nate.
you, Nate.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Baker, for
Thanks.
you've been fun tonight. I've really enjoyed all of your insights. And
I'm not usually much fun. You're right. So
no,
I don't know what got into me.
Solzhenitsyn. You're pulling
Yes.
them out.
Well, if you
and
think Solzhenitsyn's fun, then I guess
I
our
guess.
definition of fun is
it's
It's
awesome.
this. It helps.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the
And just
alcohol.
another reminder to
1.5
folks.
beers. Okay. 1.5
Yes.
beers in 2.5 hours.
I gotta get
Just
back
another reminder to folks, in addition to voting for these Board of Education members, you also have a very big responsibility when it comes to voting for your school budget this year. And as I've been saying, you know, this is a personal decision, but in Webster, I'm telling all of my
Vote 'em
folks,
down.
Sure.
vote no. And I don't want to hear from people anymore. My kid won't be able to play sports. My kid won't be
Right.
able to do theater. That's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a fear tactic that they're
Mhm.
using with you.
Yeah.
Until your children are back in school 5 full days and the masks are off
Mhm.
and we are keeping the CRT out of the classrooms and the vile sex ed and everything else going on. It is a hard no.
Yep.
Hard no.
Transparency, accountability, getting folks like who've been here tonight on the boards. We'll discuss it another day, but for this year, vote no.
Yeah.
They're going to try to raise your taxes anyway, as Dr. Baker
Right.
just
right
said.
here on the DNC, school districts eye tax increase.
Nope.
That's a
No,
no.
not happening.
You know
not
what?
happening.
Budget votes
Nope.
come amid surge in state and federal funds.
Yep.
Even the
No.
Even the DNC.
Yeah.
is telling you they're
Yeah.
getting all kinds of money and
Yeah.
they want to raise your tax.
You know what
Right.
else
No,
we
no,
need?
no,
You know
no.
what else we need on these budget votes? Because all these, if you look at the budgets that are passed, it's very vague. It's not granular. Start line by line. Not everyone's going to read it, but enough residents in the community who want to see it, give us a line by line. Show us where every dime is going. Parents would
Transparency,
wanna know.
baby.
And that would go a long way with building trust.
All right,
Yes.
everyone. We've gone way over.
We have.
Sorry.
Let's say a big thank you to We the People.
Yes.
We
Yes,
the
thank you.
People,
Thank you so much.
And thank you to Austin.
Absolutely.
Woo-hoo.
We are in the Titus Ave studios, and Tom, thank you so much.
Yes, Tom.
Tom Morgan
Host with the most. Thank
been
you.
ushering people in and out. He really is the man behind this whole operation.
Yes. And we
Crawling
look forward
around.
to see what's going to come with We the People. And I'm sure more to come from Shannon and myself with this endeavor.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
This is fun.
Awesome.
This is fun. I just have to work on like my hair and the lighting.
The lighting, I mean,
need an air
I got back.
conditioner.
I don't know.
I know.
You got
I got back
two divas here.
I know. I got back from Florida, and these lights are making me look like I haven't seen sun in like
I know.
500
And
years.
my hair has like gone from.
You got a perm while you were in
I got a perm.
I feel like we got
while I
like
was
a
in the
full
studio.
workout sitting here just sweating. But we'll have to talk
So,
about this with Chad and
That's all right.
Tom.
We'll worry, but
We're joking. We love you guys.
You guys, and for all of you who joined us tonight, thank you guys so much. Share this out to everyone you know.
Yes.
If you have a friend, this is your one-stop shop for so many of your school board elections. And so if you have a friend in your district, who did we have here? We had Andres. Let's just go through real quick.
Let's go through them all and tell you who.
Penfield School District, we are endorsing Andres Salins, Nicole Feltz, and Kavanaugh.
Yes,
Is
Susan Kavanaugh.
Susan Kavanaugh.
Yep.
For Penfield Central School District, vote all three.
Yes.
In Webster Central School District, Sarah Bell Dole. And
she's fantastic.
And that's in Webster. And
Yep.
we should use a bullet approach for that. Right. So if you want to get her in and you're not happy with any of the other candidates who are all union and
hard no for Sue Casey. Hard no, folks.
Hard no for Sue Casey, and one vote. That's it. Sarah Bell Dole. Same thing, the bullet vote in Pittsford Central School District. We are endorsing Nicole Sadu, who was with us tonight. She's fantastic. Again, there are no other candidates that we see worth voting for.
No,
So
none
when
of
you
them
go
but
in-
Nicole have
Yep,
said
vote-
yes to opening schools.
Yep. So vote no on the budget and one vote for Nicole Sadu. In Victor Central School District, there are two. Holly Bovart.
Yep.
And Bovart and Jill Mathis for Victor Central Schools. Again, for all of these, no on the budget. In Spencerport, Sandro Balpano and Randy Weaver, two very lovely gentlemen.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They were very sweet, and vote for both of them. Ashley Caselli and Alicia Nagel for Churchville Chi Life School District. And of course, Nate Brown and Stacy Show for Fairport Central School District. And we'll see what we can do here. Again, regardless how the vote goes on Tuesday, I don't really care. I love the organization. I love the process of building these groups and representing parents, supporting these candidates. We're just beginning all of this. And so we're getting our feet underneath us. I know that you guys, if even I think you're going to win, but if you don't, we're just going to continue.
Right. We're not going anywhere. We're not going
start.
anywhere.
Yeah, it's
They've motivated all of us.
Right.
Well, and now that all these candidates met each other in that group,
They were having so
you
much
guys were
fun.
loud.
I was like,
know
a little
they're out there.
jealous.
I don't know, doing
You
shots
got
out
beer
there.
out there.
I seriously, and it was nice and cool and air conditioned. But I'm really glad you guys got to meet because that's synergy.
Yeah.
It's, putting your minds together, and it's awesome. All right, guys, peace out. Thank you so much, and we'll do this again.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
So long.